Attention podcast listener, we've got an exciting new podcast coming just for patrons of patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Talking Futurama Season 2 Part 1 has begun exclusively for our $5 and up patrons on the Talking Simpsons Network. That's the first 10 episodes of Futurama coming to you once a week.
So just sign up for $5 a month at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, and you'll get Talking Futurama Season 2 and all of our limited miniseries, including the entirety of Talking Futurama Season 1. That's 13 episodes.
That is patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Now please enjoy the rest of this podcast.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy hoy everybody, welcome to Talking Simpsons, the podcast that's full of unadulterated pap. I'm your host, scrawny little bag of bones, Bob Mackey. This is our chronological exploration of The Simpsons. Who else is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert and No Christmas for Anybody.
And who else do we have?
Pardon my galoshes, it's Toby Jones.
And I'm Ian Jones-Quartey, and how many grades does the school have? Wait, is it the right episode?
Yes, yeah.
Classic line. Today's episode is Simpsons roasting on an open fire.
Turn on the juice! What do you think, kids?
Nice try, Dad. Ugh.
Today's episode aired on
The groan is the joke.
December 17th, 1989, and as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real world history.
Oh my God!
Oh boy, Bobby. Taylor Swift is born. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is number one at the box office.
Wow.
And it's for this holiday season, every kid wants themselves a Game Boy. That's the hot toy of 1989. Yeah, the Taylor Swift, T-Swift was born on
I don't
this
like
very
that.
day. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that news item.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it's funny to think of even seeing National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in a theater as a new film.
And not on TBS.
Yeah, not on TBS with like scenes cut out or whatever.
It's very much like this, and National Lampoon's Vacation came out in the same month. It's all about getting screwed over on your holiday bonus, which nobody has anymore.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We were screwed over nationally on our Christmas bonuses.
It just feels weird watching it because you're like, wait, that's a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
oh,
expected a pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, the Game Boy, I think I did get it that Christmas.
Wow.
That's great.
I was a Christmas of 90 Game Boy. boy.
I had to, I begged for it for Christmas, but also I think for my parents or for my mom, it was a gift for herself to play
I see.
Tetris all the time. I think I got Tetris and Mario Land, and I think the baseball game too. I think
one that's
that
just
was
baseball?
Just
Right.
baseball.
Baseball.
Yeah.
No
And
frills.
I just told myself, well, on the box it's all Mario playing, so I'm playing a Mario game still.
Yeah, I didn't own a Game Boy until the first Pocket.
Oh, really?
actually.
All the way till then?
Yeah, all the way till
Wow.
then. Yeah.
I think I got mine when Kirby's Dream Land came out, so pretty late, actually.
92, I think.
Yeah.
And that's like your favorite game is on the Game Boy, or one
I know,
of your
like,
favorites.
Well, I had played that a lot because a cousin of mine had a Game Boy.
Oh,
so
okay.
I had borrowed it, but I didn't own one of my own until like much later.
Wow. But I guess we should tell the listeners,
Yes.
surprise, we
Has-
went back in time 10 years.
Has the world gone topsy-turvy? No, yes. So this is the 30th anniversary of the first aired Simpsons episode. So we thought we'd go back in time 30 years and invite some very special guests to be on the show to talk all about this monumental moment
Thanks for
in
having
TV
us.
history. Thank you for coming on the show, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Yes.
And listeners, this is recorded on the same day as the What a Cartoon post-mortem for the series finale of Ian and Toby's show, OKKO. So you guys should definitely, check out that show, but also check out that podcast to learn tons of secrets. That was a
please
lot
do.
of fun.
Feels like 30 years since that show ended.
I'm so glad you guys could come on for this one, especially, and while we're in Burbank to record in our mobile podcasting studio, especially because, like, Ian, it was you in our, the first time me and Bob interviewed you, that must have been like 2017. When, OKKO was like new.
I think our Patreon just started as well.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and you mentioned how much you love the early Simpsons season.
Yeah, I have an affinity for the early seasons, not because I think they're like brilliant and far and away better than anything else or anything like that, but it's just really nice to appreciate something getting built sort of from the ground up, and you sort of see every week the show getting better and better and better. And like there's like a lot of interesting things and techniques that like you don't really see later. Like, Simpsons roasting is like, it's, there's no bones about it. It's kind of rough to look at. But there are things in the episode like, there's a gorgeous in the Greyhound race, like incredible like animating backgrounds with like a cool camera rotation. There are several parts within this episode that are like, there's the actual layouts are just like very like inventive and cool, and to know that they were doing all this stuff at very early in the show's run, it's a real flex from them to be like, oh, we can be filmic and like interesting and like actually do like cool angles and have interesting stuff, even though we don't have everything figured out yet. It's just a delight to watch.
Yeah, your mention of like appreciating those in the shorts too made me really reevaluate my feelings on it, and how I kind of before felt the general feeling of like, why even watch season one? Like, it's old.
That's
it's
kind of a
sloppy.
popular opinion.
It is, yeah.
It's wrapped into a lot of pooping on Klasky Chupo as well, which I'm sure that we did early in our podcast years. So.
Yeah, which is another reason to revisit this episode. Also because like in the 4 years, now we're talking Simpsons, but in the 4 years since we recorded that one, me and you have learned so much more about the production of the show. Like, we were probably saying a lot of like very uninformed things in that.
Well, Conan O'Brien didn't write this episode. It can't be good. I think we did 18 interviews so far with Simpsons folks, often interviewing them twice. So that's all on the Patreon, but we've learned so much since then. Our Simpsons scholarship has risen by 1,000 degrees.
And if I could make just like a plea for any listener who does kind of tune out season one, I would just say, like, if you've watched the entire breadth of what The Simpsons has to offer, you can understand that where the logical endpoint of no charm and perfect animation goes. And I think, it's just nice to look at something that is all charm and completely imperfect.
Yeah.
And just appreciate that for what it is.
And we should mention Disney Plus again, part of our ongoing ad campaign for them. But I feel that a lot of people, at least since the turn of the century when the DVD started coming out, a lot of people skip season one on DVD, thinking
That's true.
well, I don't want to see those again. When those would come up in the rotation on reruns, I'd say, I'll skip that. But now they're just there waiting for you if you have a subscription. Most people do. So I think people will be into us revisiting this one again for sure.
Yeah, and what you say about the imperfections and charms, like that really came through to me too. And me and Bob did the shorts as a Patreon exclusive. Sign up at patreon.com/TalkSimpsons. But when we watched those shorts, like I hadn't seen them in like 15 years. I had not watched them in a long time. And there's so much charm in there, and like all of the weird movements characters do, or like Bart's head just like completely transforms. He does like a wild Looney Tunes take.
They transform from their Lester and Eliza selves to almost fully formed Simpsons by the end of those shorts. So really fun to watch.
And then,
great.
Yeah, with season one, there's also another element to it, which is just that the storytelling in general, it's already at times fairly sophisticated and emotionally quite rich as well. There's a directness to how emotional these episodes get that goes away relatively quickly in the show, even in some of my favorite like season 2 episodes. Yeah.
And I mean, where was everybody in 1989, late 1989 when this aired? Like, are you, I believe me and Bob were both watching it when it premiered.
I have 30-year-old memories now of this episode watching it. I remember.
We might be slightly older than you guys.
Just a little bit.
I was a baby. I was 2 years old.
I was I was in first grade when this aired, so I do remember it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember just seeing, so you get this insert in your newspaper saying, here are the TV shows on this week, and that was on the cover, and I said, oh, a cartoon on at night, I have to see this. And I remember watching it with my family, and then just rolling into season 1 from there, being very excited about The Simpsons. So I was not a Tracy Ullman Simpsons viewer, but I just remember having memories of watching this, and then hearing the adults talk about it during that Christmas. So I thought, oh, adults like this, I have to get in on this. Like, this is what adults watch. So yeah, that's how I got into the show from this episode.
I have a rare visual aid.
Oh.
I'll give people time to Google this, but I was most familiar.
I had that.
You had
Yes,
this?
yes,
I was
sorry.
most familiar with this episode from the Simpsons Xmas book, which came out the year after. Google this if you can and look at the insides. They're amazing.
Wow, yeah. So Bart of Darkness just tweeted about this on his Instagram, or posted about it on Instagram.
Oh, that's
I
great.
didn't know this existed until now. So it's sort of like a animanga or whatever.
Yes,
taking screenshots of the TV show.
Yeah, so it's screenshots of the TV show. Really interesting layouts. I had seen this. I think someone left it in a lost and found at my school the year after, because this came out the year after. And I remember grabbing it out of there and just being like, "This is mine now. This isn't the same. This isn't the same version. I had to get this." But it's an amazing artifact because it's a piece of Simpsons merch from like early 1990, and there are barely any characters to put in the front. So like we see like.
Lewis?
Yeah, Lewis is there.
Oh.
They
Santa teacher.
Dr. Zitzowski.
The doctor that burns his tattoo off has a name.
Yes.
Also,
Wow.
ticket seller.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, these are like character profiles that are in the front of the book.
I haven't seen that in a million years. Wow.
I don't think
I'd-
I've ever seen it.
But I'd read this over and over.
Oh, I have to see this now.
Yeah, I'd read that over and over, like in school, and then I just like stole it eventually. And I most knew this special from this book more than actually seeing it on TV. And then it wasn't when I saw it later, I was like, oh yeah, I know this like line by line because it was in this book.
Wow. That's, yeah, I remember getting that as like a gift. I would guess the holidays of 1990. And yeah, I just flipping through it, just being able to return to that Simpsons episode. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
unless you have that book, you won't know the doctor's name. You won't know the pun Zitzowski.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you actually might see it in a background, like super tiny on a diploma.
It's better that we
yeah,
don't
yeah.
see it, I think.
Yeah. It's best left for the book,
My
honestly.
goodness. Oh, that is so cool. Thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah,
Of course.
I just only found out about it like today. So what an artifact.
Yeah, everyone Google that and see if you can see some of the interiors. They're really fun.
Well, and also just getting that good of screenshots for a book in 1990, like
How did they do that?
text-wise, how did they do that?
know.
It's Nintendo Power Map
It
technology.
looks like it's like a photo or a scan of the actual print.
Yeah, it really does look like that.
Yeah.
Could be, yeah.
And
Man.
and like when I was growing up, this was one of the only episodes that you could get like on VHS.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I would go to the video store and just rent it all the time and watch it. And by that point, the first couple seasons were already out, so it was already like, oh, this is an interesting, weird artifact of,
Right.
of an earlier version of this show.
My parents didn't know about The Simpsons. I've recounted the story about how, I think church told them not to watch a show much later. Though my mom did watch Tracy Ullman and she knew about The Simpsons, but she was just like, oh, is that still a thing? She was always just confused that it still existed. But I do remember it like really, I was in first grade and I remember it really hit our school like a ton of bricks. Everyone was like crazy about The Simpsons.
Yeah, I did in 89. I now know the dates because we watched the shorts, and the short the only two-parter short they did where Maggie is lost and it's Maggie like goes through like a sweepy adventure in an old Popeye
Right.
cartoon. I don't think I'd ever seen a two-parter thing as a kid when I saw that, and then I was just so glued to I didn't care a single thing. I was like 6. I didn't care about Tracy Ullman, but I was watching every Simpsons I could see. And then that Christmas when I saw that was on TV, I was like, I have to watch this. And I loved every second of it. There's like moments that were just revelatory for me of like, a cartoon can say that? A cartoon can sing this song? Yeah, and then when you find out, when I found out, like, there's going to be episodes in January, I don't think I truly understood time and when that would be, but I was like, it was going to be appointment viewing. And it also was like, for me, I was lucky, like, my family all did love it too. Like, we all watched it together. And me and my little brother, who was like 4, so I was 7, he was 4, and mom and dad, we all watched it together, and we're laughing at different things. Like, I was just entertained by like a like funny cartoons on TV and a Bad Boy. But yeah, oh man, it was a magical time. Let's talk about the history of The Simpsons in full right now. But,
okay,
we've got time.
But no, but how did we get to The Simpsons premiering in 1989? It is an 80s show, technically.
Right.
It barely made it into the 80s, but
it had like 14 days of the 80s to experience the bask in.
But why don't we start in early 1987, where James L. Brooks, accomplished television producer, he's making the TV show The Tracy Ullman Show. He's looking for animated bumpers to take place between sketches on the show. He wants, he goes with one that's a psychiatrist short. I forget the name of it.
On The Tracy Ullman Show?
Yes, yeah. And, but he also wants one based on Life in Hell, which is a moderately popular indie comic, but he then sets up a meeting with Matt Groening, and as the story goes, Matt Groening was like, I don't want to give up my publishing rights to Life in Hell to put it on a TV show, so instead he makes up a group of a family of characters who are named after his entire family, except for Bart, who is, as he would reveal many years later, based on Mark, his often unmentioned older brother. And yeah, he pitches that to James L. Brooks. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And so Groening then gets set up with one of the, few animation studios that can really handle this, who are mainly doing like commercial work in Hollywood in the 80s. Klasky Chupo, run on animation side by Gabor Chupo. And so they set up in the Klasky Chupo studio. They're going to start animating on pretty tight deadlines a bunch of shorts to basically 15 to 30 second segments of one overall story that'll amount to 90 seconds. And the first 3 animators that worked on it, we've got Bill Kopp, who would go on to be the creator of Eek the Cats.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd also work on... He'd head up the at least a few of the Roger Rabbit shorts that Disney made after Roger Rabbit.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah.
Then they got Wesley Archer, and Wesley Archer had worked with David Silverman on One Crazy Summer doing the animation of those movies. And so they hooked up together and they're like, all right, let's animate this. And the original shorts, they make fun of them on later Simpsons seasons for being so rough, but it really was like Matt Groening had not storyboarded anything before, and it sounded like he just drew like a comic strip and then they adapted it.
Yeah.
Kinda. It was just a lot of learning as they went on in the early shorts. Yeah.
They're kind of remarkable, just knowing how fly by night the whole enterprise was. Watching them, and I don't know, making stuff honestly just gives me appreciation for anything that's done. My bar for success is like way lower when I see something that's finished and like all the parts are there. I'm just like, damn, you did it. That puts you ahead of a lot of people. So yeah, just knowing how much they put together with like barely any experience, I think is really impressive.
And it wasn't like it wasn't Matt Groening or any of the original 3 animators that decided to make them yellow, which is something we take for granted now, but it's still very bizarre if you think hard enough about it. But I believe it was a color stylist from Klasky Chupo, a woman, and I forget her name, but her decision was like, here's a color you don't see on TV. This will stop people from turning the channel, and that's true. I think that's one of the most eye-catching things about the show in the early years. Like, what are these colors I'm looking at? I don't see these.
I think she did the color styling in this episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think the story of Simpsons is like dozens of good, just like off-kilter ideas that were great that all just worked out in a row, like that all just paid off. I think the I think, again, another one that like just sounded like it was done out of function was, since they had aired on Tracy Ullman, they were like, some of the cast do it? So they just get Dan Castellaneta and Julie Kavner to do the voices of Homer and Marge, the parents, on it. And it's just such a, like, just out of convenience, and also to connect it more to the Tracy Ullman show. And especially, like, I mean, Julie is a very accomplished actress. Like, she was famous for Rhoda at that time. And Dan Castellaneta, like, what a... it's shocking he hadn't done a bunch of voices prior to Simpsons, because he's just so good at it. I think maybe he was like, no, I'm going to be in Saturday Night Live. Like, that's my path. I'm a live action comedy actor. But they did hire 2 other voices to fill it out. They had relatively young, accomplished actress Yardley Smith, who had been in Maximum Overdrive, but also like major plays on Broadway too. Mm-hmm. And then the only like person from cartoon acting was Nancy Cartwright,
right? Who we knew from Snorks.
Yeah, she was like a student of Dawes Butler. I think. Yeah, she. It's an interesting story how she got into that world. Yeah,
it's also in the Chipmunk Adventure.
Yeah,
that's
she's
true.
The Sultan in that.
There's a very Bart-sounding character in that movie.
And the shorts were like an immediate hit. The Simpsons do so well. Tracy Ullman's like, we don't need this other psychiatrist one. We're just going with Simpsons in season 2. And in fact, where Simpsons then, instead of being interstitials, the next season, it's like, no, it's just one Simpsons short every week, and it'll be shown from beginning to end. And that's when they could build up a lot more of the universe and just have more things than instead of just like a series of the first season of it feels like a week of a comic strip, like where it's like, oh, this week Garfield is doing this one type of joke.
It's kind of like Blackout Gag, almost like you're watching like a Roadrunner and Coyote sort of situation.
Yeah, like Homer over and over again telling Bart, like, jump into my arms. Like, you can trust me.
Right.
But then meanwhile, in the second season, like, that's when you meet Krusty for the first time. That's when they, like, go to the zoo. Like, there's a lot more of the rules are being set up for the characters there. Yeah. And then it's doing so well that by 89, Fox, which is growing and looking to have, more than 2 hours of programming a week, they're looking for new stuff, and they especially would want to work with another show from James L. Brooks. He's such an accomplished writer. So the feeling is, I think David Silverman is one of the people who said, like, oh, push for it. Like, we could, you could do this series.
Isn't there like a story about David Silverman getting drunk at a party?
Yes, at like a Christmas party or something. Yeah. He got drunk and was telling everybody about it. Yeah, that's a fun story just to imagine. Like,
seems very real. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, David Silverman is like a known, like, a long time traveler of
Burning Man.
Burning Man. Yeah. He's a big time Burning Man guy.
Yeah. So. And I think Fox was resistant. They kind of wanted just a short show, like a package of shorts,
right?
And
they
not
said,
a full
like,
sitcom.
It was going to be like 3 7-minute shorts per, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they were like, let's do specials first, or let's do shorts. But they were like, no, it needs to be a full series. Like the Flintstones was a thing that they pointed to all the time. Like, that's why it would work, because this worked before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they pushed hard for it, and it's amazing to think of like how small of a company Fox was that they then were still like, okay, 13 episodes of animation, we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Like, we'll do it for the first primetime animated show. And not only that, but like Brooks was able to get the thing that like you'd never hear about of no executive notes. Like, they are not allowed to give executive notes on the show, which is still, I think, true to this day. I think
they always talk about how they get the notes, but they're under no responsibility or obligation to do anything.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I guess you can't stop. You can't make an executive not give notes. But.
Right. And then of course that leads to the stories about other shows like Futurama and stuff, where it's like they didn't quite have that same situation, and so it gets a little bit more hostile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard on another podcast Bill Oakley saying like that causes... that he thought that caused some tension of like they didn't get as many perks from Fox because they were mad they couldn't give notes or take responsibility for things. But yeah, so the first season staff starts getting together under Sam Simon. He's hired to help co-develop it. That he was like a wunderkind of writing. Like he was the showrunner of Taxi, the youngest showrunner of
In his
all
early
time.
20s, yeah.
And James L. Brooks had a lot of faith in him. He's now passed away. The stories about him from folks who worked with him were either like they all love him and like he's like this great guy to work with, and other people were like he was a beast to work with and I hated working with him. Like it sounds like you got one of two flavors of Sam Simon if you worked with him.
Right.
But I mean the guys we've talked to who worked on there, like Mike Reese, he's very complimentary of Sam Simon. Of like he built the writers' room. He hired the original group of writers and taught them how to run a show and really set the tone for what sitcom Simpsons would be compared to short Simpsons.
The Simpsons will be right back.
The critics are hailing the arrival of The Simpsons.
They're pretty selective.
It's hilarious,
Jingle bells, Batman bells. Don't kill me, Dad.
witty,
Ow, critic.
irreverent,
Ow, critic.
a funny show.
When do we get paid?
The Simpsons Christmas Special, next.
Whether you're a fan of Donner or Nixon, I hope you enjoy this week's podcast. And big thanks to our guests, Toby Jones and Ian Jones-Quartey. Those guys are great. If you love hearing their thoughts on this original season of The Simpsons, you should definitely check out our What a Cartoon podcasts, where we've talked to them about their series OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, as well as Evangelion. Please check that out. And if you're feeling giving at this holiday time and you're still not a subscriber at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, you really should be. That is where subscribers help me and Bob do this full time. But you also get so many more bonuses for your $5. You get to hear every Talking Simpsons a week ahead of time and ad-free. That also goes for our sister podcast, What a Cartoon. You'll get that a week ahead of time and ad-free. And you'll get access to our many exclusive mini-series where we cover episodes of King of the Hill, The Critic, and we just finished up the second season, part 1 of Futurama. You can only hear those if you're a $5 and up patron, as well as our many interviews with folks who have worked on The Simpsons as early or even earlier than this very episode that just turned 30. So please check out all the many bonuses you get if you are a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. If you're ready to live as extravagantly as the Flanders, then you should up your subscription to $10 a month. If you want all those $5 things, plus an extra mega exclusive big time bonus, you need to sign up at the $10 a month level, because you'll get to hear our monthly What a Cartoon Movie podcast, where me and Bob, only for patrons, talk about a different animated feature film once a month, sometimes for over 4 hours. This month, it's Iron Giant, the Brad Bird classic that many people missed when it first came out, but has now gone on to cult success. And you'll get to hear the entire back catalog, too, when you sign up, like Toy Story, Cowboy Bebop the movie, The Nightmare Before Christmas, A Goofy Movie, Aladdin, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Akira, and Kiki's Delivery Service. So many to choose from. You should definitely give them all a listen. So please, sign up at the $10 a month level. You won't regret it at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Yeah, so Simon and Groening, famously, they didn't get along working on it included.
And all those stories came out after he passed away. So he passed away in March of 2015. And so it hasn't been that long, actually.
Yeah, it feels like longer to me that he's been gone.
Right before we started our podcast. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
But you're right.
And Simon, he staffed up the writers with folks who would be involved in the show for a very long time, in most cases, including Al Jean and Mike Reese, who were just hot, I think just right off of Alf.
Previously, Carson, they started with Airplane 2 doing rewrites, the movie.
And also It's the Gary Shandling Show.
Yeah.
And he hired a trio of guys who were formerly of SNL, but were doing their own humor magazine that they were sending out called Army Man. That's George Meyer, John Vitti, and John Swartzwelder. And then they hired the writing team. That means in the writer's room world, that means 2 for the price of 1, with Jake Hogan and Wally Wolodarski.
Yeah, and Jake Hogan's dad is like a famous comedy Hollywood writer for TV.
I think they were just like moved from Allman to Simpsons.
Yeah.
Like they were on Allman at the time. Yeah. And then to beef up the actors, they hired Harry Shearer, Joanne Harris, Pamela Hayden, Russi Taylor more in a guest capacity, and Chris. Well, I call him Chris Latta. That's his like
Christopher Collins.
Yes, that's right, Christopher Collins. Yeah,
that's his I guess union name.
Yeah.
His real name, in other words.
But if you read the G.I. Joe or Transformers credits, you know him as Chris Latta, the voice of Starscream and Cobra Commando, which I was shocked to find out he had voices that weren't that voice.
Yeah, that is funny.
But what an iconic voice actor Chris Latta is, though. But he was not a good fit for the working on Simpsons, apparently.
Yeah, I think original Burns.
Yeah, he was the original Burns, and Mo.
None of that stayed in the show in any cut of it.
Yeah, I think
interesting.
I've heard some people say that the Burns you hear in Homer's Odyssey that aired was him, but I can't.
I think that might have been me, and I know I was wrong.
Okay.
Afterwards, I was like, no, that's not him. It's definitely Harry Shearer.
And late in season 1, they hire Hank Azaria to fill it out, like to pretty much, I think, replace Chris Latta, and he re-records lines like over Mo as well.
Yeah,
and I know on one commentary, like Groening still joked, like, I consider him the new guy, like Hank Azaria.
And he's a young man of 55 this year.
And the animation would still be handled by Klasky Chupo. They'd continue on, though the overseas animation was handled by the Korean company ACOM.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I'm like the Tiny Toons or the other on Saturday morning stuff. I saw them as a B team.
I really only know them from Tiny Toons. Other than this,
that and like Animaniacs, and they weren't like TMS, so there'll always be B team in my heart. But I guess to talk more about Klasky Chupo, we probably talked trash about them with our earlier episodes, but they did a very good job. Again, they had to like build this and figure out how to make a show like this work, and they were on the show until season 3, and I think season 3 is one of the best looking seasons of The Simpsons. Just it's so lush. I think they lost a little bit of that when Phil Merman took over. But if you go back and you read the not so great 2009 unofficial oral history of The Simpsons, you can read like the real non-writer perspective story of how things went wrong and why Klasky Chupo had to put up a lot of their own money to fix things that were the writers' fault.
Yeah, I think it was a situation built to cause friction because you had, a relatively new animation studio, especially for 30-minute production. And then you had a bunch of very experienced sitcom writers who... Sam Simon did actually have a little Saturday morning experience, but for the most part, they'd never worked in animation before. And so, especially like at the top, you have James L. Brooks, like, I don't believe he'd ever worked in animation before. And so I think that just leads to like miscommunications and frictions and both sides kind of blaming the other of like, you screwed this up. No, you screwed this up.
And this was a dark time for animation. No one respected it. They had no reason to respect animation or animators. And a big story in that book was, from Klasky Chupo's perspective, if there was a retake, Klasky Chupo had to pay for it. If there was a new scene that they wanted to add, Klasky Chupo had to pay for it. And essentially, they had to add new rules as they worked on the show, like nothing can be added after the animatic.
Right.
And I think even Film Roman had to push back when they switched over to Film Roman, like, no, you can't do changes this late anymore.
Yeah. It does seem like, every production is kind of like reinventing the wheel, but they did get away with like a lot of things. And I think it was because everybody was maybe didn't have the most experience doing it.
No, I mean for you guys in the animation world, like some of those rules must sound pretty wild.
I mean, I can't imagine what would happen if anything we wanted to change in an episode would not be partly our responsibility.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's like when we do retakes, it's like an accountability thing where it's like if you see something that is you need to fix, it's like if there is some reason to believe that it's the animation studio's mistake that they made, then there's an amount that you can do of that. But then if it's something that if it's
our whim.
if it's something we want, just because we want it, or if it's an issue that's sourced from something that we did, then we have to pay for it.
We got to find the money for that. And that system...
And it's in the budget.
Yeah, that system makes a lot of sense to me.
And they went into this not really knowing about how animation was made. Like, they thought they'd be able to shoot coverage for scenes.
We were hearing about that. It's just like,
that's
crazy.
You
can just zoom in and you'll have some coverage.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy to think about, how non-animation literate people were when they were making this stuff.
In our David Silverman interview, he did mention that he felt like he could see the wave coming of respect for animation more, or at least a new boom of animation in 1990, because it was like, this was right after Little Mermaid and Roger Rabbit.
Yeah,
right.
It was getting people talking about animation again, and like
Ren and Stimpy's right around the corner.
Family Dog was on all of our lists.
This was the season of Little Mermaid. It just came out the previous month.
Yeah, wow, just 1 month before this,
That's
man.
crazy.
So you got Roger Rabbit lead right into Little Mermaid, and then you've got Simpsons coming on, and then Ren and Stimpy with the other Nicktoons right behind it the next year. Like, you can see the hipness of animation, at least in the United States, like really growing again after at least from a popularity or a mainstream acceptance standpoint, the 80s were a very dark time for animation. Yeah, though I mean, there's still lots of things to love about 80s American cartoons. But,
for sure.
Yeah. The directors on it, top level, David Silverman and Wes Archer moved up to it. And Silverman in our interview admitted, he's like, I'd never directed a half hour of TV before. It was a lot of learning for him. And this is after season 1, but we talked to Mark Kirkland, and he talked about what a wild kind of collective of artists that were working out of Klasky Chupo's offices then. It sounds like a really crazy place to work at them. But there were some hiccups in the animation, starting with there were 2 directors, Milton Gray and Kent Butterworth. They came from a Saturday morning background, and for whatever reason, they didn't gel with The Simpsons. And they both, Butterworth and Milton Gray, they got co-directing credits on their episodes, but extensive retakes were done, especially on Some Enchanted Evening.
Which is...
the first production episode, which is, of course, the reason why this is now the pilot episode.
The first one,
They call it the pilot episode, the first episode that was released.
Yeah, it's a shame, too, because it's so funny how when you go look at that Some Enchanted Evening footage on that first DVD and how crazy it looks. Some of it is crazy. Some of it is beautiful, unusually just amazing, great animation and posing. It doesn't all work, and I get that, but it's some of it is just so well done.
Yeah, some of it's too animated almost for The Simpsons. That scene with Bots in the VHS tape telling them kids have always done what I say, getting in their faces, it's so well done.
And the scene of Marge and Homer dancing is just so lavishly animated, but to me, I look at that just as a person who's worked in animation, and I see definitely the direction that went to whoever was handling the animation was lacking. So I see the work of people who were filling in ambiguous holes that were given to them by production, and sort of just giving a guess to what this animation should be like.
Yeah, and that happened a ton in 80s cartoons.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might not even get layout from stuff sent overseas. They just have to fill in if Yogi Bear wasn't in the right place, they'd figure out how he'd get over there.
But I mean, just even in the layout stage, it seems like a lot of care was taken to fill in gaps. They maybe just got a script and maybe just some rough reads, and we're like, how is this going to be a cartoon? Because it's just people standing around. So we just have to add stuff to this.
Yeah, it was planned for a September '89 premiere, but because of the first animation they got back on Some Enchanted Evening, they were on the writer production side at Gracie Films. They were aghast at it. They found it. That's one of the best uncomfortable extras on season 1 is listening to James L. Brooks watch it again in 2000.
And then leave the room.
Yeah, he just slams the door and gets out of there.
Yeah. But it's so weird thinking that this is the 8th episode because it serves such a good introduction to all the characters, where the first episode, now the 13th of the season, doesn't. Sorry, Toby. Going
to your point, that's why it works so well as a pilot, because it hits the ground running. doesn't waste any time like introducing you to stuff. It just enters you into a world that's somewhat fully formed, even at this stage, and it just feels really good as a pilot.
Yeah, this also, they had a lot of great animators, like folks who would go on to move up in the Simpsons ranks over the years. Like Bob had mentioned, I didn't know that Rich Moore storyboarded the whole thing.
Yeah, he storyboarded the whole thing.
The only credit for storyboards.
Yeah,
we were just like, how is that possible?
We were trying to figure that out last night. We were like, what?
Yeah, we were reading through the credits and just like I think the only thing we could figure is that maybe that he had done the board, and then it was just lots and lots and lots of layouts.
Lots of layouts. Also, we saw that Nikki Vanzo was the checker on this. She was also a checker on like Ren and Stimpy, and she and husband Greg Vanzo would go on to create Rough Draft.
Yeah. Greg's a director on this season too.
Yeah. Greg's brother Scott, I think, he did layout on this as well. So
this must be like right before they moved to Korea to open up Rough Draft.
I think
right?
Rough Draft might have started in like 92. I think it was like partway through Ren and Stimpy that she was like, yeah, we can do this in Korea.
Yeah, and like Greg Vanzo, it's funny that he only has one episode directing credit for Simpsons, but like he has a lot more impact on Simpsons than people realize.
Yeah. Which episode? It's one in season 1.
Yeah,
is it No Disgrace Like Home? Or maybe it's...
Okay, yes, Ian, you were right. It's No Disgrace Like Home. Yes, as co-director, I think that's another one he took over from another. Well, it's just too like Kent Butterworth. I don't know too well his background.
Kent Butterworth, I mostly know. Well, he worked on a lot of Deke shows.
Okay.
He worked on Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep.
That was one of the things.
And you can see the connection there.
Yep, you can see the connection.
Yeah.
Kent Butterworth famously said the quote, "If you can recognize the character, it's on model."
Really? I thought you said that.
No, Kent Butterworth said that, which is just like a really hilarious quote that I find really funny. A bunch of our bosses who like used to work at Deke, know and remember him, and he's still working in the industry today.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Milton Gray, like he animated on a ton of stuff. He worked a lot with Ralph Bakshi, and I think he was the animator on the Tamra segment of Heavy Metal. The girl the bikini girl on the dragon sequence.
Right.
That's but the also like on this episode too is Nancy Cruz, who'd go on to be a director, Swinton O. Scott, Phil Ortiz, who did a lot of the early Bongo comics and a ton of other great work, and also Eric Stefani. He's a layout guy.
Oh yeah, we saw him in the credits. Yeah.
And of course, there's also Brad Bird. He was hired on. He's creative consultant, I think, from the beginning, but also I think because they needed another director, just like David Silverman has 5 episode directing credits on this.
Yeah.
I think just to not kill him, they were like, Brad, we'll get Brad to direct this.
I think Brad stayed on until Bill and Josh's years. That's when he left during that time period. Yeah.
And I think that lines up with when he would have left for Iron Giant, and it's like, I understand.
Late 90s.
For that, yeah.
And I've probably mentioned this on this podcast before, but if you're interested at all in animation, you owe it to yourself to Google Storyboarding the Simpsons Way by Brad Bird, which is like an incredible packet of just like animation tricks and stuff about like how to frame a shot, how to make it look good, how to make The Simpsons look good in one shot. He also did notes for King of the Hill that are also very similar.
Yeah.
These have been making the rounds in the industry for like new workers for decades now.
Yeah, I still tell people like, hey, if you want to know how to storyboard, that's a really good document to have.
Another kind of lost man in the Simpsons history is Richard Gibbs, the original composer for The Simpsons. Yeah. He's composer on all of season 1. He had been composer on Tracy Ullman, and there are some like sound cues in here that just don't feel right to me, just because
don't
I'm
have
used
that
to Alf Clausen.
Yeah, they don't have that lush Alf Clausen sound we're used to.
He always will have been the man to write the classic song "Ba Ba 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 Ba."
That was him.
I mean, it might have been Dan Castellaneta, but
Yeah.
did the original composition on that.
But of course, the original theme of The Simpsons, still to this day, the Danny Elfman song. That, we will never. I mean, another amazing get for the show to get that, like, to get Danny Elfman in general, who already was a very accomplished film composer, to then write such a great intro song.
It was fun to think upon watching this. The people watching this in December 17th, 1989 didn't realize they were hearing a part of the Simpsons theme for the intro.
That's true.
Where it's just like bum, 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 bum. And then you go into the living room. Like, they had no idea that was the theme song for the show.
Yeah.
And the elephant in the room on this episode is Mimi Pond, too. That's the credited writer on the Christmas special. We should have really re-released it on the free feed so you guys can listen to it, but we got an interview with Mimi Pond where she talked about her experience on this. You guys should really listen to that and also just hear about her career. Like, it's such an interesting career. But Mimi Pond is an accomplished comic artist and cartoonist. And in the 80s, you know, she knew some friends who were working on Pee-wee's Playhouse and got into Hollywood that way and wrote her first script for Pee-wee's Playhouse with the actress who played Miss Yvonne. They co-wrote a script together for that, and she also was friends with Mac Groening, and he's like, oh, if you're writing scripts now, you know, we need a Christmas special script, come on board. And yeah, as she tells it, she didn't feel it was the most welcoming atmosphere, but she, in a freelance capacity, took on the script, and they had an outline for it and everything. She added the Santa's as many lands, like she tells a story on the podcast of doing pre-internet research on all of the Santas.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a formal writer's room at season 1. It seemed like there were just people working remotely and sending in scripts to the executive producers, because I remember on the old commentaries from like 20 years ago, they were saying like certain characters didn't have names. Like the boss was called Mr. Meanie.
I know some of them were like in a trailer in 80s. It's like they tell a story on one commentary of like when Batman came out in summer of 89, a bunch of the writers all went to see it together.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I think they were, I mean, it was by Simpsons staff standards, it is a bare bones staff. Well, so yeah, Mimi Pond, you know, she worked hard on the script. She, you know, pretty much everybody who wrote a script in season 1, many of the people credited as a script on season 1 did become staff members. She did not. And as she told us in the interview, she had heard through the grapevine later that Sam Simon had said he didn't want any women on the writing staff because he had just gone through a divorce and he didn't want to be around any women. That was the story as she had heard it. And I mean, that is like the dictionary definition of sexism. Like,
Yeah, and the show would not have a female staff writer until season 6.
Yep.
A non-freelance on the writing staff writer.
Yes, in season 2, Nell Scoville would write the Fugu episode, but that was still freelance capacity, like, which means, you know, you write the script and she worked on it for a few weeks, but then gone. And like Mimi Pond would say that it did, you know, having the first episode of Simpsons as your credit, like, did open doors for her, but she said they also slammed as fast shut as they did right after. And a few years after the show, she just moved back to New York, and I got back into just the comic scene. And also her husband at the time was becoming more successful as an artist in the art world, so I think they decided to just like to move the family back east and get out of the Hollywood world. Yeah, as she describes herself, she's the turd in the punch bowl of Simpsons history, because it's just like not a happy story, unfortunately. This story came out since our first time we did this.
Yeah, Mimi Pond, I think, gave an interview like right before we interviewed her, right?
Yeah.
2017.
That year, she did it and finally like really spilled the beans. It was like an open secret. People knew about it, and like they barely mentioned her, I think, on the commentary for this episode. They're like, it was written by Mimi Pond, a good writer. Like,
I don't really think they mentioned her at all. Yeah.
Until we heard that interview or read that interview, I'm like, who is this person and why did she write one of the most important episodes of television?
Yeah.
I mean, it was something I kind of would notice even as a young viewer of the show who was like reading the credits, how a female name would pop up as a writer so rarely. And you'd be like, wonder, it's like, well, this is a great episode, so what happened? That's an ellipsis on that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in general, most sitcoms at the time and to this day are not known for employing a lot of female writers, unfortunately. Like, I think that's improved a bit over the years.
Unless you had the wit and sparkle of Murphy Brown.
Yes, yeah. No, I mean, there are definitely standouts from it, and it's unfortunate Simpsons wasn't that. I mean, just recently on Twitter, Jake Hogan, one of the season 1 writers, he did he's like, ask me questions about Simpsons. Somebody I saw asked him, about this story of Sam Simon. He's like, this is paraphrasing, was like, I didn't know that was his intention at the time. That's unfortunate. I really liked working with Sam. We definitely could have had a more diverse staff. I wish we had done that now, looking back on it. And that's, I mean, just about all the staff was like Harvard graduates too. Right. So that's, it seems like you had to be a white man who graduated from Harvard and you might get on the staff of The Simpsons then. But they still are, I mean, it's a really great writing staff too. So yeah, but that's the skeletons in the closet of this. But yeah, so Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire. When it premiered, I thought it was just a Christmas special, just a one-off Christmas special that you never see it. It'd just be a thing you'd rerun every Christmas, like Charlie Brown.
You weren't reading the trades.
I mean, and also that's how the episode opens, because it says the Simpsons Christmas special right up front, and so it kind of gives that impression.
And honestly, it is like an incredible Christmas special. It's like the story is really simple, easy to follow. The characters are like rich and layered. They don't seem as like boring as, say, like, I don't know, those kids in the Frosty special where you're just like, who are you? What is your personality? This has like, it gets it all across in like record time, and it all feels like really good to watch.
Yeah, it's funny to think of it as what it was intended to be at first of the 8th episode in a season of television that is the Christmas episode. Yeah,
like up front in that first school scene, we'll talk about it, just like a perfect intro to the 4 main characters of the family, like Homer, Marge, Bart, and Lisa, just like all summed up in one scene perfectly.
Yeah, and I guess let's get into it right up. I mean, it begins with saying just the Simpsons Christmas special, and we don't realize it, but they're playing like an altered version of the opening theme right there, of the Danny Elfman theme over the snow. And we see the Simpsons pull in, and I've seen Al Jean say this several times. He's like, what would be my last episode of The Simpsons? It would end with them going to the Christmas pageant, and that would be the last scene of them driving up.
I have one brief bit of very scary math to do before we start in full. So this special is 30 years old, and we just did the What a Cartoon episode about Charlie Brown Christmas. When this episode first aired, a Charlie Brown Christmas was 24 years old.
Whoa.
Yes. Do you know what is 24? I'm sorry, everyone in this room is visibly dying in front of me, but 24 years ago from this month was Marge Be Not Proud. So, we're as far away from that as this episode was from a Charlie Brown Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and by the way, that's the Bone Storm episode, in case you're wondering.
Oh
so,
yeah. I consider Marge Be Not Proud to be like the other Christmas episode of The Simpsons.
I'm just a skeleton right now.
All of your skin was just blown off.
Yes.
Oh wow! I had not. We just did that podcast, but I couldn't do that math. It's just it's always so far away, that thing. But yeah, wow.
That's
Time keeps moving. I can't stand it.
It's wrong. It's now I'm thinking back to what a cartoon we just did.
Can we actually continue with this podcast now?
No, I think we're done.
We're just in a deep depression.
Yeah. We'll just become dust by the end.
When you say this being like just a perfect Christmas special, like they could just replay this every year.
Absolutely.
And it would have just, I think then people might not even be as negative on the first season animation, because it would just be this quaint thing we've all gotten used to. Like, how nobody would, if you saw the Mr. Magoo Christmas special now, I feel like people wouldn't like ravage it for bad animation. They'd just be like, oh, how sweet. It's like,
one last bit of math is that originally this was intended to air between The Telltale Head and Call of the Simpsons. So that was the original place for this, which is why in this episode we see that Homer is the safety inspector at the plant, but he actually won't become the safety inspector until the 3rd episode, Homer's Odyssey. So yes, that's my last bit of
piece of continuity.
Yeah, and that's why Santa's Little Helper also doesn't appear at all in pretty much any other episode in season 1. Okay, so yes, the episode opens with them arriving at the elementary school for the Christmas pageant, which I think being in at least one of those, I had to be a shepherd or something for that.
There were never any plays for me. It was all songs for us. I don't think they trusted us with remembering, lines.
Yeah, I don't know if I was in any school.
I think I was in one in like preschool, but nothing when I was Bart and Lisa's ages.
But this is the first sign gag. That it's rated 3.5 stars and a very confusingly written star readout. It's like 3.5, and then there's a star after the half, which is weird. It's just kind of hard to parse.
Yeah.
But that is the first sign gag you see on The Simpsons is that the Springfield shopper rated this play. That's the joke.
Is the misspelling of the word pageant intended to be a gag?
Maybe I'm just bad at spelling the word pageant. Pageant's it's spelled badly to begin with. I don't even know how you misspell it.
It's a dumb word, I think.
It's a dumb word and it makes me very upset.
Has some extra vowels in there.
According to the Google Docs, which corrected me, it's Pageeant.
And then in the episode, it's Pagent, which is very embarrassing or intentionally funny. I don't know.
Yeah. I think they should just roll with it and pretend like totally intentional.
Yeah.
Not, also, too, when you're starting up a production, then they would talk a lot about like, well, it's done overseas. Sometimes letters get mixed up from English letters in stuff, too.
I think it's a brilliant commentary on literacy rates in America.
Another area where The Simpsons was predicted the future,
Yes, why don't we hear the first audio ever on The Simpsons?
Oh, careful, Homer.
There's no time to be careful. We're late.
Excuse me. Pardon me.
Hey, Norman, how's it going? So you got dragged down here too, huh? How you doing, Fred? Yeah, excuse me, Fred. Oh, pardon my galoshes.
Wasn't that wonderful?
So pardon Homer's galoshes. That's some very loud shoe foley, which is something this season is famous for. I don't think any cartoon was going to the lengths of doing like walking foley for people just walking around, but it's so loud on these episodes.
And the show definitely had a learning curve with that because there are a lot of early episodes where like Bart in particular has that like cartoony thud 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 whenever he walks. That they revised later.
But I do like walking foley in cartoons. It's like especially if the characters are supposed to be inhabiting a real space. It does add something.
It's in anime, it's some of my favorite thing of hearing like the clacking of shoes in like some business setting or some emergency setting. I always like hearing that. But yeah, that Homer. Another thing to feel like it's the 8th episode. He's getting a little closer to Homer that we know and farther away from. Like in Bart the Genius, he's a lot closer to the Walter Matthau
for sure.
Voice.
But we never ever meet Norman or Fred.
Homer's best friend Norman. We all know Norman.
Having the 8th episode show up first is just very fortunate because it sucks having your first thing air first. On OKKO we specifically had our first episode be the 5th one we made just because we knew those first 4 are gonna be kind of clunkers, or you're just kind of figuring it out as you're doing it,
because we knew our airing schedule, we were like, we're gonna give ourselves some early hindsight.
So I feel like it was actually a blessing in disguise that things worked out the way they did because the show is like a little more figured out by this point.
Yeah, Springfield, like you said, Telltale Head was right before this. Like they're really getting more of a feel of what Springfield, the city, and the populace is.
That's a lot of quote unquote first appearances for characters, even if they don't talk, because I think they just figured out a lot of secondary characters. They just put them in the backgrounds instead of these nondescript weirdos you see in this episode.
Yeah. Or also all the in Homer's Odyssey, the other guys who work at the power plant are like, who are these weirdos? Though that's part of the charm. Though when you see the weirdos,
for sure.
That's why, even when we did the Helen Hunt episode, there's like some really Klasky Chupo looking kids in one scene, and I just love when
you can't use Klasky Chupo as a pejorative, Henry. We're trying to heal the wounds.
Sorry, I just mean of their era. It feels like a season 2 child character design pulled out for their needs.
Yeah, lots of like scene filler, weird background characters, and like things that they pulled back on later, like background characters getting to have muzzle lines and yellow hair.
Yeah.
Dots for eyes.
Dots for eyes.
Oh,
I do miss some of those things. I really feel like there should be some other characters that get yellow hair or Simpson-esque hairlines or muzzles.
Yeah.
It does feel really weird that they are the only ones to me.
A few characters get grandfathered in, like Lenny.
Yeah, Lenny
he gets a beard muzzle.
Yeah, that's true.
And Krusty allowed to.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. And Grandpa, actually, that's the funny thing in most of the shorts. Like, I think almost every adult man who appears has the beard muzzle.
Right.
Basically. And I believe they're all voiced by Dan Castellaneta, too.
That's true, yeah.
Also, it has to be a record. It takes 13 seconds to get to the David Silverman directed by credit.
Wow.
There's only 2 co-producer credits, and that's Gene and Reese.
Yeah,
and then
wow.
it's Mimi, and then it's Richard Sakai and I think like 2 other Gracie Films people, then Mimi Pond, and then David Silverman, and just boom.
Wow.
Like they are parked before they get into there. And again, not a first appearance, but Skinner's here. I think they've even got Skinner more figured out than in Bart the Genius. Skinner's like the tough principal,
yeah, and they kind of have a shtick for him that they drop. It's the him mispronouncing things.
Yeah.
And actually, when we did Lisa Sachs, Al Jean and Mike Reese brought it back, where he's like, "I'm your principal sinner." It's like, "Oh, I've lost them forever." So they were going back to his season 1 trait of a very bad bit to him mispronouncing things.
It's an incredibly soft joke.
Yeah,
that he accidentally pronounces something wrong.
I'm not sure if I did this on the first podcast, but I did hear him say flavorites.
Yeah, holiday flavor.
Yes.
Maybe this is a funny joke.
Yeah.
It's like things like flavor. That's pretty funny.
It is pretty good.
Yeah, they should have stuck with it. I think. Well, and also another thing I do like they stick with and they bring back from time to time is Maggie's starfish. Onesie. That's really great. Like she's so adorable in that. And I mean, it's just a one-off joke you can do, but it's always fun to see her in that.
It's a fun sight gag for the character.
Yeah, and then we get the Santas of Many Lands, which. Like the Mimi Pond looked up. She did the physical research of going to the reference desk at a library.
These are correct. So it's Ruprecht from Germany. That's Santa's evil helper. But actually the Japanese one is its name is Hoteosho, not Hoshiashi. That they got that wrong.
I mean, close enough. I'm glad they gave it a try.
But Tawanga, that's not real.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. Yeah. That's as real as the tiki gods at the Disneyland.
Yes.
The German Santa, based on voice and like character outline, she looks like a miscolored Janie. She for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was Janie.
And there's like store brand Ralph is the other one.
I have a note on that. I just wrote the word proto Ralph, where it's like it's the Ralph character design under some Santa stuff with a different voice.
No one tell him to get off the stage, sweetie.
And that one's Joanne Harris, right? She's she's another like lost name of Simpsons history. Like she's like Rod or Todd before Nancy becomes them. Yeah. It's also funny to see like what is a shock gag in a Simpsons in the first season. An eye falling off a fake pair of glasses.
The little springy eyes.
The entire audience gasp in horror, but then clap.
That's also, man, the animators already in season 1 are like getting all these scripts that are like, and then a giant crowd of people reacts. And then Lisa gets introduced by Mr. Largo. It's they got Mr. Largo up front there too. He's one of the season 1 guys they seem to think they do a lot more with. He at least gets to appear from time to time.
Yeah, I mean he's baked into the intro of every episode as like here's Lisa's nemesis, the evil
true.
Mr. Largo. Watch out for him, kids.
We can never forget him.
No one will ever point the way he did.
No,
his best line is "Ew, a bug."
And then Lisa comes out for a very like crazy intro. This is the best dancing she's ever done in the show, I think. It's funny, she can't master tap dancing in season 12, but she can do this like full act with 2 spinning fire sticks.
Tap dancing is too square.
Yes. She's also wearing a body stocking.
It's quite peculiar.
It's that always used to actually, when I was looking at the Simpsons Xmas book, it always used to confuse me. I was like, what is going on here?
Yes, yeah.
I think when I was a kid, I was like, how rude is this cartoon I'm looking at? Are they doing this?
I believe it's Silverman who says on the commentary, like, it was just a miscoloring. It's not supposed to be body color for Lisa. It's supposed to be a body stocking of a different color. But yes, unfortunately, it makes it look like Lisa's like bottomless with a grass skirt over. Like it's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
But hey,
yeah.
We survived as a nation.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, look, the show was popular anyway.
And then after the second grade's done, it's time to move on to the fourth grade, I think this did really get me into it as a kid too, because like they are directly saying like the kids are in these grades, and I was probably thinking like I'm in kindergarten, I'll be in second grade someday, or I'll be fourth grade, like and then later when I would enter second and fourth grade, I knew I was in the Bart and Lisa grades.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It felt special. If there was a moment that got me into The Simpsons, it was this song.
The fourth grade will now favor us with a medley of holiday favorites.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha! Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright.
Sweet Homer, he sings like an angel.
Oh, jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile broke its wheel, the Joker got a Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle.
The fifth grade will now favor us with a scene from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Oh, how many grades does this school have?
Then a gentle fade to the next scene. Yeah, that was one of the early standout scenes of the show, so much so that they kind of replicated it with the Do the Bartman video, where it's like Bart misbehaving at a recital.
You're right.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could sing Jingle Bells that way. I'd never heard it before. I've talked to some people who are just like, we all knew that Jingle Bells.
I heard it. I don't remember for me if it was a schoolyard thing first or if it was a Simpsons thing first.
I heard it independently of The Simpsons, but maybe those kids heard it from The Simpsons. But I do remember like maybe a year or two later, the Batman the Animated Series, Christmas with the Joker. They did this bit straight where Joker actually sings it to Batman, which is great. Yeah.
He says the Joker got away.
So menacingly. It's great.
I think isn't that a Kennedy one? Like that's one of the only Kennedy Batman.
It's a little weird.
It's very strange. But yeah, I think I have a distinct memory that this blew my mind because I remember a friend teaching me this the previous summer before this aired, and I was like, how did they know?
I thought Simpson, obviously as a kid, I thought Simpsons invented this. Like I didn't know.
I think it's a schoolyard class.
I was Googling it earlier, and it goes way back.
It's the kids of the 60s talking about TV Batman.
It was all about Adam West. Well, that's what I love, that Graining brought that back, or the show, but it feels like a kind of Graining choice to bring back this kind of schoolyard thing. It's like, I think kids were singing this everywhere. For me, it was, if kids knew it beforehand, I think this repopularized it.
For sure.
1,000%. Yeah.
For sure.
And though Marge and Homer should go back, when they see their child yanked off stage, they should just get out of their seats and go get him.
He's so far in the back. I'm not sure if they saw him.
Yeah.
I think too, if he's getting grounded for that, or if he's getting detention, they don't need to stay for the fifth grade. They can get out of there.
But this is again the 8th episode, and I think this letter scene establishes all the characters once again. It does not feel like the 8th episode where it's like, well, here's all the characters again with a more formal introduction via Marge.
Right. Well, I think some Enchanted Evening in that test footage, you can see them do more talking about what it's like to be a family, and it sets things up more who they are. So maybe since they knew they were who knows how late an edition this was, but maybe they added this later to set things up better.
That was my note in my own notes that like we don't know what retakes they did. We don't know what they added before this aired. So who knows, what was not in the original idea for this episode.
It's true.
But yes, this the Simpsons family letter really does set everybody up here.
Dear friends of the Simpson family, we had some sadness and some gladness this year. First, the sadness. Our little cat Snowball was unexpectedly run over and went to kitty heaven. But we bought a new little cat, Snowball too. So I guess life goes on. Speaking of life going on, Grandpa is still with us, feisty as ever. Maggie is walking by herself. Lisa got straight A's. And Bart, well, we love Bart. The magic of the season has touched us all.
Marge, haven't you finished that stupid letter yet?
Homer sends his love. Happy holidays.
Marge!
The Simpsons.
Marge, where's the extension cord?
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Homer, it's in the utility drawer.
Sorry, I'm just a big kid, and I love Christmas so much. Oh! Yeah.
It's great. Maggie falling down, like truly being a joke.
Yes. She falls down so much, it makes so much noise.
Yeah, it was once a joke and not an obligation where it's like, well, what else will she do in this scene?
Well, and also, talk about jokes that it then just became reality. They introduced Snowball 2 just for it's only for the joke construction of our cat Snowball died. It's named Snowball because it is a white cat.
Yeah.
And they're saying, like, but we got Snowball 2. Then the lift up and reveal that Snowball 2 is a black cat.
Yeah.
Only because the kid, like, clearly Lisa said, well, this is Snowball 2.
Yeah.
And for that point onward, Snowball 2 is just a black cat and nobody understands why.
2 really awkward pet names come out of this episode. They have to stick with them for the entire run of the show.
That's true.
Yeah. And they're both tied to this Christmas episode.
That's great. The Simpsons Xmas book, I think, even has a dedication to
Snowball.
Oh, really?
In the front. I think it says...
And we learn...
It says, like, dedicated to the memory of Snowball 1.
Oh, wow.
And we learn in a non-continuity episode, Snowball 1 was killed by the mayor's beer-swilling brother, Clovis.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But that was in a treehouse, so yes,
Yeah.
you're right. Doesn't count as continuity.
Yeah, but at this point, why not?
Sure, yeah. We should meet Clovis by this point. But we talk about Disney Plus. So when Marge is saying Grandpa's feisty as ever, they have a painting of or a photo of Grandpa behind her, so new viewers who didn't see Grandpa in the shorts can be like, "Oh, that's Grandpa right there." In the cropping, you see Grandpa's chin, like it's just not.
Grandpa's chin is as feisty as ever.
Well, they promised to fix it, so they better fix it.
It'll get fixed, but. I also think of that moment of Homer like shouting at Marge there as the transition from Shorts Homer to sitcom Homer, because Shorts Homer would have just yelled at her and just said like Marge, like that. It would have ended there. The softer Homer of the sitcoms then goes, I'm sorry.
I'm just a big kid.
Homer famously loves Christmas so much.
We all know that about him.
It's one of his best known traits.
It makes him very likable in that moment.
And the Dan is already capturing the Homer sounds of like when he can't find the extension cord is all tangled up. Not unlike our extension cord right now. But I am not frustrated by that in the least. Then we get the kids writing their letters to Santa, which this is one of those scenes that as a kid you just think like, yeah, they are just writing their letters to Santa, the real person who exists. But now as an adult, you're like, oh, Marge is trying to get the list of gifts from their children with the live, like, I'll send these to Santa Claus. Though Bart doesn't believe already, even though later he does, like in Miracle on Evergreen Terrace, he believes in Santa Claus. He thanks Santa for a gift.
That's a pretty subversive element for this that we kind of forget about. That up front, it's like, there's no Santa Claus. Hello, kids watching at home. This is all made up, and you're probably watching this with your families right now. So.
Yeah, I never believed in Santa Claus. So
wow.
seeing that, I remember recognizing like, he's smart like me, you know?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. My mom was just like, don't ruin it for other kids. Like,
really?
She just said that up front.
My parents were very my mom was very invested in keeping Santa Claus the myth alive. Like, to the fact that I forget exactly why, but for one Christmas we were out of town, but we were told like Santa will drop off your presents when you come home, or when they'll be waiting for you when we get home on like December 28th. And like whoever did it put like a soot-covered footprint on our carpet to extra trick me. And for like the next couple years, when other kids would tell me like Santa's not real, I was like, I saw the footprint. He's real.
Santa's real and he's filthy.
That's very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, also Lisa gets her one defining season 1 character trait here of wanting a pony. Was it on one of the shirts was like a penny saved is a pony earned?
Yes, that was what they honed in on for like the one piece of Leech, the clip art they put on shirts and mugs. Although I do have the Overachiever coffee mug from this era. It's really good.
Oh, yeah.
There should have been more embrace nothingness.
Merchandise. Her arcade game phrase, right?
I prefer yellow.
Which he does say, he doesn't, I don't think he says dough in this episode, but he also does say yellow. So I think I started doing that as a kid because Homer made it seem so cool.
Oh, yeah. I would do yellow and I would do a hoy hoy.
And Bart instead has a more realistic gift of a tattoo, which in this episode it's like $16 for a tattoo. Is that even by 89 prices? That sounds crazy. Yeah.
Maybe a very bad one in prison.
Though our friend of the show who did an episode with us, Matt Apodaca from Earwolf podcast, How Did This Get Played?
Yeah.
He has the moth tattoo.
Oh, that's great.
He has it like on his inner forearm. Yeah, and it's the full, it looks exactly like it, and it says moth. Like,
that's great.
It's a good Homer line where he says you can't get that tattoo until you can pay for it with your own money.
Teaching the wrong lesson.
It's very, not till you're 15 style joke.
And then we get the introduction of Julie Kavner's 2 other most prolific voices on the show, which, the read in this episode to me is they don't live in Springfield.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, watching it again.
Yeah, and my read also is that they're less open with their hostility, especially a lot of things are just murmured to each other and not just out loud.
There's a lot of murmuring on this show. It's funny for how loud Simpsons gets later that there's just more passive-aggressive murmuring on this.
I love the introduction of Patty and Selma
in
this show.
And I think we learned from Bill Oakley recently, I don't know if this was on the record before, but...
that was on stage. He said it, so this is on the record.
It was a recording. We recorded it. We released it. But apparently this points back to some more Sam Simon issues with women, and that he did have a really mean sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Or at least the sister-in-law he did not like.
Yes. From his perspective, she was pretty cruel. Yeah. So it's like, I'll take my revenge on you via cartoons. And that's where Patty and Selma came from.
Interesting.
Yeah. Though, on their side, Homer is a bad husband, and they should be disappointed they got their sister married.
He's only 7 hours late later.
But yes, let's meet Patty and Selma over the phone here.
Yellow.
Marge, please.
Who's this?
May I please speak to Marge?
This is her sister, isn't it?
Is Marge there?
Who shall I say is calling?
Marge, please.
It's your sister.
No. Hello? Hello, Marge. It's Patty. Selma and I couldn't be more excited about seeing our baby sister for Christmas Eve. Well, Homer and I are looking forward to your visit, too. Somehow I doubt that Homer's excited. Of all the men you could have married, I don't know why you picked one who's always so rude to her.
And a gentle fade out.
That line even fades out too, which is like, I forgot, like, not thinking of a punchy line to end a scene with, but still, it was a magic trick we were all watching, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's all very non-Simpsons editing tricks too. They changed a lot of their editing style.
It's a very crossfade heavy episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we get again, not in order. Actually, I think this is the first Flanders.
Again, a lot of these characters appeared for the first time in the previous quote-unquote episode, The Telltale Head, or sorry, quote-unquote previous episode, but this is his first speaking role.
Okay.
Really? So this is the actual first speaking role for Flanders.
Yes.
And then what about Patty and Selma?
Yeah, I believe this is their first.
Yes.
Their straight up first appearance.
No,
That's
they
awesome.
also appeared for the first time in Telltale Head.
Oh, right. Yeah, they're there too. Sorry.
Wow,
Yes,
interesting.
There are so many characters that are just part of the mob, and then later they're given like a speaking role later in season 1. But yeah, Flanders here, he's not like a super Christian. He's not a goody-goody. He's just established to be the better man, the better husband, the better father. And that's his main trait in this
Watching
episode.
it and seeing that utility of character, it just really made me like Flanders as a character. Like that's all he is. He just needs to be the better provider for his family, and that's it.
Just the like show off on his block too.
Yeah, but he doesn't even mean to show off. He's
Yeah.
just like a nice guy.
Yeah, though the hyper Christian Flanders, where we just see it in season 10, he's not the type who would put Xmas and Santa on his house.
That's true.
Very true.
And I think this is sort of maybe even like a lingering yuppie joke, just this conspicuous consumption of Flanders where we're still in the 80s. It's like, why does this guy have so much money? He's living beyond his means, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
see that.
Well, all his talk about credits
Yeah.
in the next episode in production order.
Right.
Yeah, it's yeah, you know what? He was a yuppie before he became a Christian. He was a yuppie. And it also only had one child too.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're pre-Rod or Todd. Pre-Todd.
Yeah. It's also funny to see this after doing Miracle on Evergreen Terrace, because they do this joke They do this joke again in Evergreen Terrace of Homer on the roof and falling off the roof while doing the lights.
Bart's line is, "It's craptacular." I think in this one he just goes, "Ugh."
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot more downplayed in this one.
Homer's fall off the roof is so slow and soft. It's great. It's like he just falls and he's fine. It's like a very realistic fall off the roof.
It's like, well, look, this is a father of 3. He needs to land in a big patch of snow and be like, ooh. Oh, that was almost bad. And that's all. I like the Foley work on the sound of the one bulb popping.
Oh, it's
down there.
perfect. Yeah.
The single pop is funnier than any of the jokes of them reacting to the bad lights.
And then it comes back the next morning, and there's it goes by so fast, but one of my favorite, like you were talking about layout, the overhead shot of the breakfast table.
Oh, yeah.
As they start, that's a wild shot.
That's
we were
exactly the
looking
word
at
we
that.
used when we were watching the yesterday.
Yeah.
We were like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they decide it's time for doing the Christmas shopping, and they reveal that Marge has a stockpile of money that she's been hiding from Homer this whole time.
It's up there between her 2 bunny ears.
Oh yeah, they're holding on to it like tight. Yeah, that's how it stays up there.
I like to imagine that we always should read Marge as walking around with a jar of money in her hair.
That's why her posture is so good, right?
Yeah, I mean, and also why she has those big ropey muscles. She's carrying that around on her head. That was like the first joke with her hair they ever did. I think
Yeah.
they never did it in the shorts, like a joke with her hair.
It's a very specific, hair related Marge joke. Yeah.
And yes, I also like how 80s Bart feels. He's like, cool, the mall.
That does date it. There's no reason to go to a mall now in America.
And also that the mall is so popular they have to park in spot double Z.
Yeah, and that layout of the mall is just gorgeous. Where you see the parking lot and then you zoom out and you see the whole thing. It's really well drawn.
When you see stuff like that, it's like, no, that they are trying with this animation. They really are. And yeah, Homer seemingly not realizing it's in her hair. Even when he closes his eyes, I think you would hear the hair rustling and know it came out of there.
That's one of the things that, talking about, seeing only this episode the first time, that's one of those great pilot tricks that you see everywhere. You find a way to explain something that's weird or interesting about the characters. So you have this hair. It's they found a way to make that part of it so that when you see it, you're not just what's up with this hair? Like, why is it so tall? You know?
Why does the mother on this show like have 4 foot tall hair?
Exactly.
That's an odd thing.
It makes you stop asking that question. You're like, oh, well, that's where that money is.
It's to hide the money.
Yeah.
It's always been to hide the money. Yeah. And when they go to the mall, there's some also like definitely feels like the Chupo style of the kids in the train going by, like the train set shot. That it's not in this one, but there's a lot of also like kind of Rugrats opening zoom in shots. They did a lot in these years. Too.
Yeah, a lot of zooms in general.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Not a lot of mall jokes. I think in the next 2 years, it'd be like the joke would be like, "Could you believe this store is real? Can you believe it? They've got a store for this now." But no, these stores are all except for the tattoo parlor, which you would not see in a mall. A mall 30 years ago. Today, they would totally rent an empty spot in a mall.
If you want to show up at a mall, you can have whatever business you want. If you want to be there,
they'll take your money.
But yeah, they're very normal background signs in this mall. Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably once the animation comes back, they get like, oh, there's maybe the writers finally understand like there's all this screen real estate we're passing up on by not having a sign get there. So, I mean, Surly Sailor Tattoo Parlor, not their greatest joke. But,
no, but this guy who would never appear again, he's got to be a relative of the comic book guy, right?
Yeah, I thought that too. He seems like Marvin Monroe and the comic book guy fused a little bit.
Yeah.
If your beard can exist outside of your chin line, then that's a really weird old design, like comic book guy. Can't get away with that now. And Monroe too.
I love when even when they bring back Monroe, they like how they have to futz around with that character to make him look acceptable in a season.
It doesn't quite
episode.
work.
Yeah, it never really does. But I like seeing him try. It's fun to see him try. But that's where there's the $15.95 tattoo that Bart can get. But there's also a cutaway to chronologically the first appearance of Burns and voice-wise Smithers.
Attention all personnel. Please keep working during the following announcement. And now, our boss and friend, Mr. Burns.
Hello. I'm proud to announce that we've been able to increase safety here at the plant without increasing the cost to the consumer or affecting management pay raises. However, for you semi-skilled workers, there will be no Christmas bonuses. Oh, and one more thing. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank God for the big jar.
And a slow dissolve to the next shot.
So that office that Burns has, so that was like established in like Homer's Odyssey, maybe?
Yes. It's the one that Homer falls out of, right? Addressing the crowd after he gets his job back.
Yeah, I think it's the exact shot setup from Homer's Odyssey.
Maybe they reused the background.
Could be.
Though the painting looks better this time, the painting on his wall. I love in his smaller old office, the bear is still there and they transfer over his giant stuffed bear to the bigger one. Yeah, no Smithers. We can't see his skin color if it is original Smithers or what. But that's Harry Shearer as Burns there. And now that you mention it as this being him as a safety inspector, which they have a bunch of Homer walking by things to check their safety and failing.
I guess that's true, right.
But also what Burns' speech says, I see it now as like he is blaming their new safety protocols for the new budget that made it so they couldn't afford it.
I'm reading it that way too now, knowing what is supposed to happen before this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is what executives do. Like that's a perfect excuse to say like, oh, there's no budget.
Weird amount of episode to episode continuity here.
Yeah. Not that I never noticed that until Bob finally brought it.
In season 1, they get pets. Homer gets a new job. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
You don't really see any other employees in this one either. Like it's just Homer in the shots, but he does. At least you get to see the power plant break room for the first time and him eating donuts as he normally does in there. That's and yes, again, as people who've worked in offices, like I never got a Christmas bonus, never expected one.
No, actually, we got the same Christmas bonus at our last job together, Henry. It was a $14.99 Cafe Press gift certificate.
That's right.
That we didn't. I did not redeem.
Hello.
Yeah. No, after they laid off 25% of their global workforce and canceled the Christmas party, we got a Cafe Press gift certificate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're lucky to get donuts out there, honestly.
I think, I don't want to say they never gave me anything. At least once at one of my website jobs, not that website, I got like a $50 Amazon gift card.
Hey,
So
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That'll save Christmas.
that'll almost buy you a video game for your video game job.
I like that Homer doesn't acknowledge the directive to keep working during the message, and he's just standing there eating donuts.
That's good. Stick it to the man, Homer. That's, and also before that is the tattoo fantasy. I should have mentioned that.
Oh, yeah.
Bart's fantasy of like, I like that it's sweet to me that Bart wants to do it to make Marge proud.
Yeah.
Getting a tattoo of Mother, right?
Yeah.
But of course, later on in the episode, Marge would be not proud.
Whoa.
Sorry. Yeah, the crossfade from Homer to Marge of saying like, "Thank God we got the big jar." Then that's where Marge says her great line, "Where's that Bart?"
And then we meet Dr. Zitzowski, who I just learned the name of, learning new things every day. And it's really part of that season 1 awkwardly naming characters based on traits like Mr. Largo, J. Lauren Pryor, because he pries into your, personality and lifestyle.
I mean, Skinner too.
B.F. Skinner, also
Crabapple.
Crabapple. And the one that's kind of a missing link is Marvin Monroe. I think on one of the commentaries they were saying he was formerly a woman, or he was like a cross-dresser or some sort of gender thing where he wanted to be Marilyn Monroe. Yeah,
man,
but that was a trait that was not included in the show.
Something tells me they might not have stuck the landing with that.
I think their best season 1 name joke is Arnie Pie with Arnie in the Sky. That's that, because it should be Pie in the Sky. That's the obvious name to call it. Yes, what Marge's answer to "Where's that Bart?" is getting a tattoo, which he stops right in the middle of it. So instead of saying mother, it says moth. But that guy got really far on that tattoo.
Yeah. The amount of blood that would be coming off of Bart.
See, I've never gotten a tattoo. I probably said this in 2015. I still mean it. I'm scared to commit to a permanent thing like a tattoo. I can't
get one that's meaningless.
It's painful though too.
No, it's not.
Is that? Okay.
No.
Bob has more. He has several tattoos.
I only have 2.
Okay,
more are coming.
No, man. Should I get a Simpsons tattoo? I can't steal Matt Apodaca's moth tattoo.
You should definitely get a Simpsons tattoo.
You can't get that or dignity.
No,
too many people have dignity.
Boy, all right. I'll keep shopping around for one.
Or the flying hellfish logo.
Yeah, you have to find your most obscure favorite Simpsons joke.
Boy, Bart then it gets taken to a skincare specialist who has very, very rough standards at this place.
Where's that Bart?
But Mom, I thought you'd like it.
Yes, Mrs. Simpson, we can remove your son's tattoo. It's a simple routine involving lasers.
Cool.
However, it is rather expensive, and we must insist on a cash payment up front.
Cash? Thank God for Homer's Christmas bonus.
Ay, caramba!
Now, whatever you do, boy, don't squirm. You don't want to get this sucker near your eye or your groins.
It's so weird to hear just a needle drop sting on The Simpsons.
Sting,
That's shocking to hear. Like you'd hear that in Ren and Stimpy,
or like Beavis and Butthead even.
They did that
That's
a million
true, they
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, where's that Bart?
I'm going to start using that every day.
But the more famous saying in that clip is "Ay caramba." That's his chronological first one of those, and a million T-shirts were sold with that phrase, and within 6 months of this episode's airing. He said like don't have a cow man. He said like maybe once, but this one he said "I caramba" a lot of times, and I think this taught me the word growing as a kid too.
I think I was with you there.
Yeah, I think they mentioned in the commentary that saying the word groins on TV was
the joke. Was the joke where Grandpa was mad about the use of the words "family jewels"? A reference to that.
It might have been.
Get him right in the family jewels. Bart gets his tattoo removed. That leads to the "I'll quit it" joke, which was another of my favorites as a child. Like just easy repetition. And that feels like just a bit of Shorts humor put in the show.
Oh
too.
yeah,
yeah, it's true.
But also that joke easily could have been in a future episode with the exact same rhythm to it.
Yeah. That one really has the Simpsons rhythm there. There's also the music you could hear in this. There's a lot more like Muzak. You just hear like, well, they're at the mall, they're playing Muzak.
Right.
That just these more like I guess diegetic is how they're supposed to sound.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, most Simpsons episodes have very little music in them.
Unless it's like a purposeful like montage or something or a song.
Right.
Like later in this, Homer's at Moe's and Santa Baby is playing on the radio.
That's so weird. I think I heard that for the first time because I was listening with headphones. It's so low in the mix.
Really low.
Yeah.
Which is like they spent all that money on Santa Baby to barely hear it. But yes, says Homer is at first entertained with Bart's wound, and then he finds out the shocking news.
Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it.
Hey, what's with this?
Ow, quit it. Used to be a real boss tattoo.
But Mom had to spend all the Christmas money having it surgically removed.
It's true! The jar is empty! Oh my god! We're ruined. Christmas is canceled. No presents for anyone!
Don't worry, Homer. We'll just have to stretch your Christmas bonus even further this year. Homer?
Oh, yeah, my Christmas bonus. How silly of me. This'll be the best Christmas yet. The best any family ever had.
That Western is just blaring in the background.
Yeah. I'm like, what is Bart watching?
Bart loves Western.
Yeah, I think a lot of the show in the first season was just being anachronistic. Like, here is a, post-war family, but it's almost the 90s, but they're still, the slingshot, the skateboard, watching Westerns, doing the mambo. They're baking all this old stuff into a new show.
That definitely feels like a Dennis the Menace watching Westerns on TV. Like, Bart should have a cap gun he's shooting at the TV.
Right.
No, I didn't catch that being a classic Western sound effects until this very moment.
All I can hear are horses screaming now.
Great Homer acting there. But if they're writing this is more realistic, they're writing Marge is very stupid to not get that Homer lost all the money.
Oh yeah, because they're I remember them not being in the same room during that moment, which would explain it a little better. But actually, they are in the same.
They are.
room.
They're both somehow standing in front of the same doorway.
Yeah. They folded space and time.
Yeah.
That TV's just too loud.
Yeah.
But some great Silverman-y kind of poses on Homer's freak out. Silverman really, under his direction at least, he loves a Homer freak out. I think he defined the Homer freak out for the show.
I think the first one was really in the series was in Bart the Genius, him just pounding on the door at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to beat his son.
If only he could beat his green naked son.
No wonder the show was so popular.
But yeah, incredible line read there.
Yeah, my God, yeah. And then there's some real front-facing Simpsons there, too. In when Homer keels over and Marge goes we'll just have to stretch out your bonus more this year. It is a weird looking front-facing Marge. But I love that awkwardness of a front. These characters were not designed to ever be seen front-facing.
No, it's true.
And so it just demands it. But if a scene posing demands it, they make it work.
Yeah.
And then Homer goes outside and feels suicidally depressed for in production order the second time in the series.
Yeah, I love that shot where he just hangs his head down.
Yeah.
It's very pretty. Yeah.
I mean, that is the shot that kind of clues you in as an audience, this episode's actually going to be incredibly sad.
Yeah.
And you really feel it too.
Yeah, the level of pathos in this is actually surprising to me. There's a couple scenes where I'm approaching it thinking of Captain Goofball Homer and not a human man Homer. Right. So, in a little while when he leaves Circus of Values and has a single tear of shame.
Oh yeah, he cries.
I feel so bad for this man. This isn't Captain Wacky. When the Act 2 comes back in, it's a bedroom scene, which this is something Bob had pointed out recently. That Gene and Reese love that stuff.
Yeah, just a way to sort of, not reset the story, but sort of retell the problem and, fill the audience in case they forgot or like ground the story again. And they would Al Jean and Mike Reese especially would use these scenes a lot in the second act.
Now, this is back when Marge wore her poofy 60s evening gown.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of just being sleeping nude as she normally does. Yeah. Homer almost comes clean. That also makes this more of a much more traditional sitcom kind of plot too. Of this would have been on Dick Van Dyke, this exact plot line of just, I have to lie to my wife to save her feelings kind of thing.
And the fun sight gag of not only his eyes are lighting up at night, but his smile too. So these are cartoon characters.
It's super
They're not
funny.
hiding those.
It definitely got a laugh out of me watching it again.
That was something Groening wanted to do more often on the shorts because he was just I want to save you guys trouble. So for this week, Bart's in the closet for most of the episode and you just see his eyes, or it's a blackout. They got to turn off the lights. There's a couple of those kind of that I wouldn't even complain of this is cheap because it's just they're very tired. It's at the end of a long season and they're very short-staffed. So Homer heads to Circus of Values, the same place where Milhouse gets his 8-ball in a couple seasons.
That's right. There's no try and save yet.
Yeah, it feels like a proto try and save, but I guess it's a separate store.
It's like a dollar store, it seems like, of this era. And I like him trying to convince himself these toys are good, but he does forget Lisa when Maggie's the one he normally forgets.
Yeah, and then to see these scenes of Homer counting every penny and trying to save this money because it's simply not in his budget. He can't even use a credit card. And that's established in the bedroom scenes. And guys whose credit cards don't make that beeping noise, meaning he's always overdrafted on his credit card.
We'll hear that in the next episode too. When he goes to Bob's to get the RV.
That's the warning that if I go blind, to not sell this to somebody. Compare that kind of frugalness to in season 7 Homer pulling $900 out of his wallet and which is a great joke, but this is they're actually thinking about budget at this point.
Yeah, I know that the writers got bored of Simpsons don't have money stories, but I'm not. I seriously think that's something that really should have kept going. And, maybe, I don't know, they could just bring it back and be like, oh, yeah, they are poor like everybody in America.
Yeah, I think Bob's Burgers kept track of that longer. I still think Bob's Burgers sometimes will just cheat and they'll be like, hey, we got an extra check we forgot about. Let's go on a vacation somewhere.
But having that explanation is nice.
Yeah. They at least bother that. But mostly they are we're 2 months late on our rent again kind of jokes. I like those more. Yeah, this it causes tension here for Homer.
Yeah.
I also it feels like a joke that didn't fully go through the animation. The way Homer tears the dog toy.
Oh,
the package.
We discussed that. It was kind of unclear what the goal was.
Couldn't tell if he was supposed to be looking at the label on it or something, or trying to hide that it was a dog toy.
I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
Toy for dogs. Get rid of that. But then he says, "Oh, but she can't read," and that's why he leaves it on and drops it.
Right.
I'm guessing that was the intention of it.
I think we figured it out after 30 years.
So let's actually hear the clip of Homer doing the Christmas shopping here. Probably the only time he's ever bought a gift for his children, I think.
Marge, let's see. Ooh, look! Pantyhose, practical and alluring. A 6-pack, only $4.99. Ooh! That's a paper. I bet Bart can think of a million things to do with these. That just leaves little Maggie. Oh, look, a little squeak toy. It says it's for dogs, but she can't read.
Now! Oh, Simpson, it's you.
Hello, Flanders.
Oh, my, what a little mess we've got here. Well, which ones are yours and which ones are mine?
Well, let's see.
Oh, this one's mine, and this one's mine. This one's mine. And
they're all yours.
Hey, Mr. Simpson, you dropped your pork chop.
Give me that.
Well, happy holidays, Simpson.
Gee, Dad, this is going to be the best Christmas ever.
You bet.
Yeah, that's where there's like genuine, like kind of almost sappy emotion of Homer there, just like crying.
I think Flanders knows he has it better than Homer in this scene. I don't think he's oblivious.
He's rubbing it in. I think so.
But I do love that music in the background. I say, if you want to find a truly haunted experience, go onto YouTube. You can find actual recordings of the like an hour and a half of like Kmart music from the 70s that they would just play in the store.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
man. That's my new lo-fi beats to sleep or
put that on at your Christmas party. I swear,
that's great.
Clear out the room.
Also, now we've been so trained on War on Christmas that it feels crazy that to hear Flanders say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas.
Can they even say that?
That's how innocuous it was then. Like it as it should be. It's crazy that.
I remember watching this part of the episode as a kid and just suddenly feeling this tremendous amount of empathy for every bad gift I ever received.
That's
being
true.
Like, oh, I should have been more grateful.
That person was trying with that gift. Yeah. I think this was what alerted me to like these gifts I get at Christmas are bought by my parents. Like they buy them. Not I knew Santa also gave me gifts either, but there were gifts. I did get gifts that were like, this is from mom and dad, this is from Santa.
I see.
Things. Yeah. And then we, in chronological order, get our first visit to Moe's bar, or Moe's Tavern. Well, boy, what an expert I am calling Moe's bar.
Establishment. Gentleman Club.
But yes, in order, this is the first appearance, in air order, the first appearance of Moe and Barney, yes.
What's the matter, Homer? Somebody leave a lump of coal in your stocking? You've been sitting there sucking on a beer all day long.
So?
So it's Christmas.
Thanks, Mo. Drinks all around! What for the crazy get-up, Barn? I got me a part-time job working as a Santa down at the mall.
Wow. Can I do that?
Well, I don't know. They're pretty selective.
I love this rare yellow-haired Barney.
The flesh hair Barney.
Yeah, flesh hair Barney.
And he's more realistically drunk than fun cartoon drunk.
Yes.
It's a little darker.
I also love the line, "What's with the crazy getup, Barn?" It's a Santa suit. It's very obvious.
And it's Christmas.
Clear, that's a real Fred Flintstone kind of line too. Like in total, like what's with the crazy getup, Barn?
Yeah.
And this is the most Moe has ever cared about a person in the show. Too. Like he doesn't want Homer to keep drinking, and he's just like, here. And like he gave him a free candy cane. When would Moe ever give anyone?
You know you're paying for that, right, Homer? That'd be the joke now.
A decade later, he will be pointing a shotgun in Homer's face and demanding to give him money. And that Santa Baby song is just so distracting.
A lot of the background stuff is distracting when it's, especially when it's just isolated from the image.
Right.
It really sticks out now.
And so Homer takes the story turn of that he's going to be get a nighttime job as a Santa Claus. Him going to Santa school, like this is 2-3 years before David Sedaris' Santaland Diaries come out. I looked it up. I was like, oh, that probably came out in 87 or something, but it was 92 at least when NPR first played it, his essay on it.
And
maybe this comes from some actual real world experience somewhere. Yeah.
It feels realistic. This kind of like back room in this like learning annex where they're teaching them all the Santa rules.
And this guy does not have a name. His name is Santa Teacher in your book.
Yes,
I think
Santa Teacher.
Yeah, on the wiki. I'm surprised it's not like Mr. Elfman or something like that from this era. It definitely would be.
And this guy has a secret talent at hypnosis.
Right.
That's true.
He will hypnotize the baseball players to play better in Burns' softball team.
Is it the exact same design with the weird cone head?
Yes, yeah. In season 3, it's pretty distracting to see that pin-headed character.
It's a very strange head.
It fits for at least in the season 1 of a commanding jerk who's like telling them they won't be paid until Christmas Eve, which like this, I think really the secret here is that this is a pyramid scheme that Barney got Homer into, and he got a bounty for bringing in Homer. That's what I think.
In this episode, this is all I know about Donna Dixon is from this episode. Dan Aykroyd's wife
That's all I knew.
And
her
she
as.
was in like the most recent movie she was in before this that was popular was Spies Like Us.
Okay.
So like a blonde, attractive actress didn't do a ton, but Donna Dixon sort of sounds like Donner and Dixon.
Right.
And Nixon, this was how I learned of the existence of Richard Nixon as a child.
In 10 years, he'll be a major character in Futurama.
This also, Barney in general is a more conniving and together Barney than he's ever been since this one, too.
He's more successful than Homer in this episode.
It's true.
So Homer was apparently home 7 hours late, which makes it feel like is this 11 p.m. and the family's there? Yes. Let's hear Homer in the Santa school here.
Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho!
What is it now, Simpson?
When do we get paid?
Not a dime till Christmas Eve. Now, from the top.
Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho.
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Nixon, Comet, Cupid, Donna Dixon.
Sit down, Simpson.
And what would you like, little boy?
You're not really Santa, Toby.
Why, you little...
No, Homer. If such an emergency arises, you just tell them Santa's very busy this time of year, and you're one of his helpers.
Oh, I do that one, too.
That's great. He thought maybe the answer was to harm the child.
Yes.
To strangle the child.
Which he's also, it's also awkward that the teacher's like, I'm going to sit on your lap now and talk to me. He could just do that from standing away from him. He doesn't need to sit on Homer's lap for it. This whole bit here does feel, you could see this as just a sketch on Tracy Ullman's show.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just the Santa School with maybe one of their recurring characters going to Santa School. Or I guess Tracy Ullman would she be the person learning about Santa, or would she be the instructor? Where does Tracy fit in?
Maybe the instructor. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got to be the crazy instructor. But yes, that's when Homer gets home, and Patty and Selma are there. They've been pawing Bart and Lisa. It feels even weird, when Bart and Lisa run away from them, they call him Daddy, which is just you guys call him Homer. It shouldn't be. But that's when Homer gets challenged to get a Christmas tree, which long bit of it takes a while, this joke, but I do like him stealing the tree.
I really like this joke. One of my favorite things is Christmas tree is slightly irregular. The reveal that it's still $45 because the car is driving in front of it, and you see that $45.
That's good. That is good. Yeah, I think Disney Plus probably butchered that slightly.
Maybe.
Do you think that the joke is he's going there, but he's going past it to just steal a tree?
Yeah, I really appreciated it watching it again.
Yeah, and him stealing the tree, it's great because it's so bleak and it's so dark, and he's getting shot at. Yes. He could have been killed.
In another universe, it's a story of Homer being murdered on Christmas Eve for stealing a tree, or December 20th. There's also a birdhouse joke that it's in there. No bird violence, though.
It's winter. The bird has left. We're safe.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of winter, that's more diegetic sound. They have Winter Wonderland playing on the radio too. It feels like their sound design this whole episode is, if somebody would be listening to the radio, or there'd be music playing, or just it's so much music in here.
But it does amp up the Christmas special feel.
But
I would say it was a rare thing on a Christmas special to be seeing somebody just getting angrier and angrier and more frustrated and violent, while listening to Winter Wonderland playing.
Yeah, as far as animated Christmas specials go, I don't think any were really about a father pushed too far by Christmas. Then we also get to hear Hank Azaria just a unnamed character just shout. He's so good as just a guy shouting at people off screen. And some fun. I like the dog animation of the dog chasing. That's real good.
A lot of good dog animation in this episode.
And then we cut to Homer on the job. He's being asked for Robotoids and Goop monsters, which feels like very 80s toy.
I gotta say, the Frankiac doesn't say goop like slime. It has a slur.
What?
So the captioning might have misread that.
I'm certain.
Yeah.
It's a goop for sure.
Shame on you, closed captioners of 1989.
I never, by the way, of those He-Man toys, I never wanted the mucusy ones. It's like, that's going to ruin my toy. I did not want those. But yes, Homer then is overseen by Bart and his pals, Lewis and Milhouse.
Yay.
There. Richard was left home, I guess. They didn't bring Richard along.
But named after the comedian Richard Lewis. I have to assume.
That's what I always thought. Yeah.
And also for one shot, like Lewis gets miscolored too. Like he gets, it's like he becomes Todd Flanders for a second. Yeah. But then Bart gets a dare he must do.
Get a load of that quote-unquote Santa.
I can't believe those kids are falling for it. Hey, Milhouse, I dare you to sit on his lap.
Oh, yeah? Well, I dare you to yank his beard off.
Ah, touche. I hope you feel better, Santa.
Oh, I will when Mrs. Claus's sisters get out of town. Thanks for listening, kid.
Hey, Santa, what's shaking, man?
What's your name, partner? Little partner?
Well, I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?
I'm Jolly Old St. Nick.
Oh, yeah? We'll just see about that. Homer.
I want a word with you in Santa's workshop, little boy. Cover for me, Alfie.
Don't kill me, Dad. I didn't know it was you.
Alfie.
Nobody knows. It's a secret. I didn't get my bonus this year, but to keep the family from missing out on Christmas, I'd do anything.
Oh, say, Dad, you must really love us to sink so low.
Now, let's not get mushy, son. I still have a job to do. Hey, little one, Santa's back. Oh, no! Damn it!
It's a good early dough.
Yeah.
Later we do hear the bow, like the one they reuse a lot.
Yeah. I think they do that twice later. Yeah.
Up until like season 3, they're reusing it, I think.
Yeah.
But man, hearing a cartoon character say hell and damn, like, oh man.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
I think I just realized about 90% of this special is just a radio or a TV or a PA system playing something in the background while the characters talk. I think they were just worried, like, is this too quiet?
Maybe. I like that Bart now gets in on the action, though, so it's not just Homer suffering alone. Like, it lets Bart take over. Like, it lets Bart join in the action and the fun.
For sure. It's kind of a mature choice because, like, even in future episodes, it probably would have been a more dramatic thing where Bart runs away or Bart gets in trouble or Bart just, like, laughs at his dad or whatever. But in this situation, it's like his dad has a very frank conversation with him and explains the situation and appeals to his humanity. And Bart responds in a respectful manner, respecting his dad and what he had to do.
Yeah, and I love seeing Homer and Bart together on an adventure. It's very like Yogi and Boo Boo kind of feeling.
They're fun. They're fun together.
Yeah,
I feel like an underrated Bart continual saying is touche. Like he says that a lot,
and he's getting peer pressured by Milhouse in that scene, which is like the voice is there, but the dynamic maybe is
pecking order is wrong.
Yeah, Milhouse is a lot tougher in these first season. I think once the writers saw him enough times in the show, they're like, no, that's his submissive nerd. That is not. Homer finds out he's only made $13 for what had to be like days of work, which like should be illegal. But again, that goes into my pyramid scheme conspiracy theory in this episode. As Homer thinks he is out of money, he finds out this was all part of Barney's plan.
Hey, wait a minute.
That's right, $120 gross. Less Social Security, less unemployment insurance, less Santa training, less costume purchase, less beard rental, less Christmas club. See you next year.
Oh.
Come on, Dad. Let's go home.
$13? We can't get anything for $13. All right, 13 big ones. Springfield Downs, here I come. What? You heard me. I'm going to the dog track. I got a hot little puppy in the fourth race. Want to come? Sorry, Barney. I may be a total washout as a father, but I'm not going to take my kid to a sleazy dog track on Christmas Eve. Come on, Simpson. The dog's name is Whirlwind. 10 to 1 shot. Money in the bank.
Oh, come on, Dad. This can be the miracle that saves the Simpsons Christmas. If TV has taught me anything, it's that miracles always happen to poor kids at Christmas. It happened to Tiny Tim, it happened to Charlie Brown, it happened to the Smurfs, and it's gonna happen to us.
Well, okay, let's go. Who's Tiny Tim?
That's so good.
What an online.
I don't think a miracle happens to Charlie Brown in the Charlie Brown Christmas special.
His friends torture him until they feel bad.
So I was running some numbers on this. I don't know how many Christmas Carol TV versions there have been, but what do you think had more Christmas specials, Smurfs or Charlie Brown?
I would think Charlie Brown.
I'll go with Smurfs.
It is Smurfs. There were 6 Smurfs Christmas specials to this day, and Charlie Brown's only had 4.
Four. I was actually talking about this with Maddie yesterday. It's 4?
There's 4.
I thought it might only be 2. Okay.
Yeah, no.
There's 3 because I want a dog for Christmas. That's the least.
Yes,
Okay.
I want a dog for Christmas, and
It's Christmas time again.
And Charlie Brown's Christmas Tales.
Oh, that one. That's the one that I got
Christmas
lost
Tales,
on.
yeah.
But
6
Yes,
Smurf
6 Smurf ones.
We forgot Christmas Snoopy Goes to Summer Camp. That's the final one.
Yeah, the Smurfs are Smurfs Christmas Special, Smurfs Christmas Carol. So there's they did one, Baby's First Christmas, 'Tis the Season to be Smurfy, The Magic Sack of Mr. Nicholas, and The Smurfs Christmas.
Look, they knew exactly what they were doing with that.
Yeah.
And they played those Smurfs Christmas specials every year on television.
But then after that, I had to look up how many Christmas episodes of The Simpsons there were.
There's probably more than 6 by now.
I'll say 11.
I'm going to say, I'll say 12.
Higher. There are 20 Simpsons Christmas episodes.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Are they doing an annual one for the past 10 years?
I think they've just started doing Christmas episodes every year.
I think you're right.
And there are so many. And there are some Christmas episodes that are not even at Christmas time as well.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Damn. That's on the Smurf thing, that definitely feels like Hanna-Barbera knew where they're that was a big moneymaker for them, those Christmas specials. Yeah, I do like, it's kind of this is like a meta moment in the show of Bart basically knows he's in a Christmas special. And he's just says we have to do this crazy thing because in a Christmas special, that would fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then the next scene is seeing the happy little elves. It feels like partially the message of this special is this isn't like other Christmas specials.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's true, but also in many ways it is.
It really is.
It really is.
It kind of walks the line really well.
But it makes you think that it's not. It makes you think this is better than that.
I also, as a kid who watched all these cartoons, I like that Bart had memorized all these cartoons. It could bring up cartoon history to his old man. But yeah, we come back from the break. We're watching Happy Little Elves, which was another season 1, right up there with Space Mutants, just constantly appearing characters. It was their attack on Hanna-Barbera, on Smurfs, really. I think.
Pretty much.
And Smurfs' final episode aired December 2nd, 1989. So that's why they dropped this bit. They're like, oh, the Smurfs don't exist anymore. This is such an 80s parody. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and again, notably, Homer knows who the Smurfs are, but he does not know who Tiny Tim is.
So wait, the Smurfs exist in the same universe as the Happy Little Elves then, right?
Yeah, they both exist.
I suppose so.
Wow.
And yeah, Marge says that Homer told them they were going off caroling. That's why they're on here. And it's a fun cut to Barney and Bart singing, caroling together with "We're in the Money," which is I feel like Bart only knows that because they sang it in old Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Right.
That's how I knew that song. It just appeared in Merry Melodies.
Yeah.
And so this is on Christmas Eve at the dog track. Our family did go at Christmas time to the local dog track a few times. My dad was a big gambling fan.
Wow.
So yeah, there was the Orange Park, Florida dog track, and my mom would make the joke of we don't open our presents until the 8th race. She would quote this line. It was a favorite of hers.
I mean, was it as seedy and disgusting as shown here?
No, it was a little better. Yeah, I mean, the clientele was still seedy. I mean, it was mainly just guys in their 60s wasting their money. That's pretty much what it was. And a lot of smoke. It was also you could smoke there. So I remember getting the first Simpsons comics and stories around when I went to the dog track with my dad one time and just reading it over and over again while I was waiting for it to go home.
Wow.
Because if you can't gamble, the dog track is quite boring.
Sounds like it.
It's 10-1 odds, so Barney's going to make $130. I mean, not bad, and he's just going to drink it all anyway. But,
enough for a sweet date with Daria.
Yes, yeah. But Homer wants to make a bigger bet.
I guess world winners are only hope for a Merry Christmas.
Attention racing fans, we have a late scratch in the fourth race. Number 8, Sir Galahad, will be replaced by Santa's Little Helper. Once again, Sir Galahad has been replaced by Santa's Little Helper.
Art, did you hear that? What a name! Santa's Little Helper? It's a sign. It's an omen.
It's a coincidence, Dad.
What are the odds on Santa's Little Helper?
99-1.
Whoa! 99 times 13 equals Merry Christmas.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Don't you believe in me, son?
Uh,
Come on, boy. Sometimes your faith is all that keeps me going.
oh, go for it, Dad.
That's my boy. Everything on Santa's Little Helper.
I do like that Bart understands gambling odds better than Homer.
Yeah.
Why you don't bet on 99-1 shots.
Yeah, and he loves his dad so much that he's willing to let him do something incredibly stupid.
Well, and also Bart's reaction to, well, that's a very un-Homer line to say, like, sometimes your faith in me is all that keeps me going. That feels very Jim Brooksy to me, I think. But so they put it all on Santa's Little Helper. We do a quick cutaway to, this is the one other scene where Lisa actually gets to do anything in this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's mainly just to put her aunts in their place.
Unadulterated pep.
It's almost 9 o'clock. Where is Homer anyway? It's so typical of the big doofus to spoil it all.
What, Aunt Patty?
No, nothing, dear. I'm just trashing your father.
Well, I wish you wouldn't, because aside from the fact that he has the same frailties as all human beings, he's the only father I have. Therefore, he is my model of manhood, and my estimation of him will govern the prospects of my adult relationships. So I hope you bear in mind that any knock at him is a knock at me, and I am far too young to defend myself against such onslaughts.
Go watch your cartoon show, dear.
That's like the biggest like Lisa-y moment of the smart Lisa we know.
Yeah, for sure.
This is because in the short she was basically just written as a slightly smarter hellion like Bart.
Right, right.
Not the incredibly gifted child they make her
starting
into
to
this.
evolve into that here.
Yeah, and I like how in the scene she goes from being like a kid who is super into her Smurfs knockoff show to then have this incredible speech about what male role models mean to her in her life. It's touching. I also like Grandpa's review of it too.
Is that his only line in this episode before the credits?
Before that goes when he wakes up. So there's
the other line is, "Oh, Homer," very much like, "Where's that Bart?" I want the "Where's that Bart" T-shirt now from Bart.
And so we cut back to the dog track, and the dogs get in the race, and it's clear instantly that Santa's Little Helper is immediate last place, like far, far behind. There's a great joke of just 5 seconds of them waiting to see if they're like, well, I'm going to watch the dog finish. Nah, let's go. The dog names are... They're not funny enough. They're kind of funny. There's basically
Sir
this
Galahad?
joke is,
Is that a joke?
I guess not really. Dog of War is a joke.
Dog of War is the one joke. Yeah.
Yeah. Though I mean, the names are funnier in the race in 2001 Dalmatians.
She's the fastest.
Yeah, I mean, this is why they started working all night to come up with funny names for things, so that we could not make such negative reactions to the names of things.
Names are taking up space and time, so they better be funny.
Those 4 a.m. nights were worth it for them. Just to make us go like, good name. But yes, they lose. They are very like pitifully searching for a winning ticket in the dog track, which like that is sad.
That's a bottom moment.
That is like so. And again, the lack of balance with like again, other episodes would be sad, but they would always by that point the humor of the show was very heightened. There were surreal moments. It was not quite as real. But this episode is just so crushingly sad.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody else read it this way, but upon this viewing, I read it as Barney was picking up a sex worker. Because he didn't go there with a woman.
That's
and
true.
He won big. And she's sort of like dressed in the cartoon version of like a fur.
It could be.
Yeah.
I just read it like following cartoon logic of, he was so successful that he just attracted a partner to go home with.
This time I was like, this could be just like a seedy joke to be like, this isn't your mama's Christmas special. This guy's going to get laid later or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is the skeezier instead of just like garbage pile Barney in this. So, yeah.
I don't think he's got like a steady girlfriend named Daria. I don't think that's what his life is about right now.
She'll never be seen again. And I think other than when the women kiss him for wearing his Kiss Me, I'm Left-Handed shirt, this is his only time with a woman, I think. I mean, he gives a shot with Selma, but he just gets maced. So if you count that, then that's 3 times with women, but that's it for Barney. But yes, they do find a gift at the dog track, though.
Find any winners, son?
Sorry, Dad.
Hey, Simpson! What did I tell you? Whirlwind! Let's go, Daria.
Beat it! Scram! Get lost! You came in last for the last time!
Look, Dad, it's Santa's little helper.
And don't come back!
Oh, no, you don't. No, get away from me.
Oh, can we keep him, Dad, please?
But he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's a Simpson.
And that dog owner or Santa's Little Helper's owner would come back.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So season 14, Old Yeller Belly, and I really want to believe it's because they were all sitting down to watch these again for the first time in 10 years. You're like, oh yeah, we could do a story about this. What if he came back? Like I feel like a lot of this came out of them watching the episodes again. A lot of like season 13 and 14 and 15 and so on. Just
Did he still have the voice of Mo Sizlak when he came back?
Oh, you know what? I think it was similar, but they designed the character to be less freakish.
I see.
It was still Hank Azaria, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that was regular Mo, that voice, and then the Mo in this was young Al Pacino. Like, it's fully the young Al Pacino voice. But that speech on like he's pathetic, he's a Simpson, but I think getting a dog is the opposite of saving money. I think for
that's true. That's a short-term solution.
Yeah,
later they had to go shopping for all of the dog food in the crate and all that.
It's another
stuff.
mouth to feed.
Yeah,
they mentioned on the commentary that they eventually received letters from animal cruelty organizations about how greyhounds usually did get abandoned, and it was a huge problem. And they were like thanking the Simpsons for shedding light on this issue, where it's like, oh no, they were just trying to solve a third act.
I mean, that's sweet. Yeah, the greyhounds are not racing greyhounds are not particularly well taken care of. It's sad. It's a sad story. So yeah, I'm glad this fix for their third act pays off for that. And yeah, that Santa's Little Helper, his name will always be a Christmas name in all future appearances. So I think that's why they don't even have Bart say his name sometimes. He just goes like, here, boy. Oh, hey, boy. Like, yeah.
Side note, just from listening to it, Barney's still burping, but you can tell, like, when they found the Barney burp, it must have been a real eureka moment for them. They were just like, I'm never letting this burp go.
Every character has that burp.
Yeah, because
every male adult character.
The Barney burps in this, like, the episode probably would have been a few notches better in total if it had Barney burps during those scenes.
Oh, yeah. That's like the perfect. Castellaneta found the perfect burp, but there is. Sorry, I did mean to play not the full clip, but we do have to hear the bow cheese.
Oh yeah.
Run!
Faded whirlwind in the lead, and coming up on the left is Contraband, followed by Dog of War and Fido.
Go, Santa's Little Helper!
Boy.
Come on, get that ready!
Dog of War coming up fast on the outside.
Come on,
Santa's Little Helper!
Go!
And with a lock on last place, it's Santa's Little Helper. Dog of War third by a nose coming up fast.
Don't worry, Dad. Maybe this is just for suspense before the miracle happens.
Yeah, they would love to reuse that one for the next like 3 or 4 years.
So many times.
It's a good bow.
Yeah, it's
not
good.
dough. It's bow.
Oh, geez.
He doesn't say bow.
So they adopt a dog. They head home. Everybody's up late waiting for them, which, like, in a world before cell phones, it's just like, just silence. You can't track everything. Just
Patty and Selma assume he's cheating on Marge.
With Bart.
Guess so.
Like, they're just that's even weirder.
That's a lookout, maybe.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, to think that they're leaving them waiting up at 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Though even if Homer did win $130. In 1989, what store is open at 11 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve to even buy anything?
He'd be heading back to the try and save, I guess.
Maybe his plan was just like, I'll just hand Bart and Lisa $40 each and call it a day. But yes, they come home, and it's a happy ending for the Simpsons family.
Homer!
Hold on. Look, everybody, I have a confession to make.
This should be good.
I didn't get my Christmas bonus. I tried not to let it ruin Christmas for everybody, but no matter what I did...
Hey, everybody! Look what we got! A dog! All right, Dad!
God bless him.
So love at first sight is?
And if he runs away, he'll be easy to catch.
Oh, this is the best gift of all, Homer. Yes, something to share our love and frighten prowlers.
What's his name?
Number 8. I mean, Santa's little helper.
Great.
Nice little greeting card ending.
Yeah. Merry Christmas from The Simpsons. It says on there. They even know what their own logo is.
I don't have a logo.
They didn't have to do it, but Homer revealing his lie and owning up to it is great, like, story math.
Yeah.
It's great, like, oh, good, that box is checked. He did it, even though it does not matter that he did it at all.
It feels good that he has to give into his guilt and admit what he did wrong, and then just because it's a pleasant Christmas special, he completely gets away with it.
Yeah,
and it's so funny in the Scully years we're in now. They get just so many jokes of Homer directly lies to Marge's face for a joke,
and she's aware of it.
Yes. Yeah. And in this one, it's like Homer just goes, I can't lie anymore, guys. I tried to keep up a brave face. Like, and it is weird to hear Marge say, God bless him, and like, I don't know, like all he did was he brought a dog home. I guess that's good. But,
Also in this sequence, there's an upside down background.
It's just upside down.
That. Yeah, it's just straight up upside down.
Which shot and what's the background?
You can see, I think, a picture of Bart and a lamp. The picture is hanging upside down. And the lamp is just on the ceiling.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Damn, man. Yeah, the retake budget's only so big.
Yeah.
So that's quite a mess up there.
Yeah.
But it is a sweet ending. I like they all hug around the dog, which also, like, again, buying a pet, that is a big change for a household.
Yes. Yeah.
They just choose to do it. And then we end with a song over the credits of Bart pulling his trick again of singing the altered lyrics to something, which this led to some childhood frustration because, again, this was the only time I'd heard this version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I thought it was the Simpsons version, and then when I went to school, I saw this when I lived in Arkansas, and then we moved to Atlanta, and when I went to school, kids were singing a different with 50% different lyrics, alter version of Rudolph. And I was like, you're singing it wrong. And they're like, we've always sang it this way. You got it wrong.
Go back to Arkansas.
Yeah, I knew slightly different versions of this as well.
Yeah. It confused me as a kid. I didn't understand like the cultural, social reasons that like the different versions would have spread around then. Yeah, but it frustrated me in my new school to find it didn't make me popular at my new school.
Yeah,
and the last thing you hear is Bart getting strangled by his father.
Yes,
to kick off 30 years of wholesome family fun.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's not shown, but you just have to know what's happening there.
Which that also feels like it's one that breaks the Matt Groening rule. Well, I guess it is him. Just he gets mad and instantly does it, not a premeditated.
He's
plan.
not like stalking him around the house.
Yeah, no, it's just like an instinctual abuse of just like, it's fine. Yeah, but wow, what's guys' last thoughts on going back to the original Simpsons episode?
Oh, I can see why it was so important for sure. And I think as slow as you think season 1 is, and some parts are, this is a very good first episode that wasn't supposed to be the first one. And I'm guessing you probably haven't seen it in a while, and I'm guessing you probably have Disney Plus, and I will say go out and watch it this Christmas. You'll definitely have a lot of fun, especially with some of the goofier stuff and the stuff that's been changed drastically since this aired 30 years ago. But whoa, what a good 30 years we've had with The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's a truly amazing pilot, and like the thing about it, it's like before The Simpsons was like the funniest show in the world. It was this show, and it connected with people on this emotional level first. And I think that if it hadn't laid this kind of groundwork, we probably would have never gotten the show in all of its many different wonderful forms that it had after this.
Yeah, I said it before, but it's rare that you get a Christmas special that has any kind of personality to it. I feel like Charlie Brown Christmas maybe had the most personality of any like annualized Christmas special. Even though this isn't supposed to be one of those, looking at it through this lens, it's just like, well, this is a very successful, well-made Christmas special, and it's got that great season 1 jank to it.
Yeah, and it makes you, if you weren't already interested in the family, like it does, the emotionality gets you to buy into them too, especially if you're a child who can identify with Bart, especially in this, because Lisa doesn't have a ton to do in this.
No,
one,
not really.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I did have one last clip I wanted to play because it was the commercial that came at the in the last commercial break of The Simpsons that stirred me so much to make me a Simpsons fan for life.
Hi, gang. This is Bart Simpson. Now that I am a huge star, now that we're all huge stars, The Simpsons are getting their own series premiering Sunday, January 14th on Fox.
So
was that Krusty at the end?
I love that.
Krusty groaning. So you had to wait.
Background music is also amazing.
I guess that's how broken the series was. You still had to wait a month for it to start.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, also, especially back then, it's like you don't premiere a new thing over the Christmas break.
That's very true, yeah.
And I guess that means The Simpsons was like a mid-season. Well, I guess they had to become by necessity a mid-season show.
And they have one shot they have like 2 shots from Bart the Genius in there, but they started with a shot from I believe it's the last short, Bart on TV.
Oh, wow.
Where he's got the bunny puppet on the TV, so they're using that to fake Nancy Cartwright talking, saying new Bart lines of saying, now that I'm a huge TV star, thanks to my new episode here.
I know I was excited when I saw that. And I thought in 30 years, I'll be talking about this for money. Mark my words, everybody.
So if you want extra nostalgia on YouTube, somebody very helpfully uploaded at least their local Fox affiliates, all the commercials that aired during the Simpsons Christmas special first time. You can see that the Simpsons Christmas special was sponsored by Coca-Cola and by Apple Cinnamon Cheerios.
Hey.
I will watch that.
And airing right after that, the Sam Kinison guest starring episode of Married with Children.
That's a great one. Yeah. It's a Bundyful Life, I think it's called.
That'll be our next podcast. Let's just do that.
Oh, boy. That was the previous hit on Fox before The Simpsons, too. So, yeah. But yes, thanks to Ian and Toby for being on the show. We really appreciate it. It's the end of a very long recording day.
Yes.
So thanks for sticking with us. Please tell everybody out there where we can find you. Of course, talk about OKKO, the fantastic show that just wrapped up in the fall.
Yeah, watch the show OKKO on the Cartoon Network app and wherever you can find it. And you can follow me at IanJQ on Twitter and Instagram.
Follow me at Toby Jones in those same places.
Woo. Well, thank you so much again, guys. Yeah.
Woo.
So thanks again to Ian Jones-Quartey and Toby Jones of OKKO for being our guests on that fabulous redo of the very first episode of The Simpsons. And by the way, we're recording this a little bit later back at Henry's apartment, and we have some special breaking news for you about some exciting things that we want to do with Talking Simpsons in 2020, and you can be part of it. Isn't that right, Henry?
Yes, that's right. After going back to Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire for the 30th anniversary, it made me and Bob realize, like, boy, we have changed so much as podcasters this podcast has grown so much since we first recorded it. And I mean, like, in time, it has grown. Like, I think Bobby said this episode is like 4 to 5 times longer than the first time we did it.
I think the original one was like 40 minutes, and our recording just with Ian and Toby was like 240. So we think that the 30th anniversary of the first season of Simpsons premiering is a perfect excuse to go back to the first season and redo it now with all of the new information we have, to us anyway, new information and stuff we've gotten from interviews that we know about the series that we didn't know then. And also with cool guests that we now get, I think it'll be a totally different show if we were to redo the entirety of season 1, meaning the remaining 12 episodes after the Christmas special. And now that this is our full-time job and has been for the past 2.5 years, we have so much more time to give to producing a podcast about a single episode, which is why this one is just so long and full of extra information that was not in the first one that we did.
Yes. Now, that's what we're pitching to you guys, that in the new year, to line up with the anniversary of the premiere of Bart the Genius in January, we would start doing season 1 again, Bart the Genius to Some Enchanted Evening. Now, as you know, this is a chronological podcast, but we would just be hitting pause on season 11. It's not like that we're not going to do season 11. It would just be after we did the 12 episodes of season 1 in what I like to think of as season 1 Redux. And so starting today, when this episode goes live on the Patreon, but open to the public, is a week-long poll to just check with you guys if you're cool with us redoing season 1. And I think you guys will really enjoy it if you vote yes on that. But we wanted to put it up to the listeners.
Obviously, we really want to do it, and we hope you're on board with us. And I think we're going to get so much more out of them now that we have so much more time, and also different perspectives to add to these discussions as well.
Yeah. You know, we were coming at them before as just our memories as children watching it. But now, like, you know, we've interviewed folks like Mike Reese and David Silverman, who worked on this first season. And Mimi Pond, who wrote this episode. We have so much more context for the first year of the show that we didn't have before. And also just, I have so many more views on the animation side of things that I didn't really have to share at the time in our first podcast. Plus, we have improved clip technology, and also so many people just signed up for Disney Plus that I think they're watching season 1 for the first time, or for the first time in a long time, as we hit the 30th anniversary, that I think it's worth re-exploring with you guys as listeners too.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think when people were buying the DVDs, there really aren't any more, but most of the people I knew never bought season 1 because they're like, oh yeah, season 1, who cares? Season 3 and 4, that's where I start, or maybe even 2. But yes, now it's just available almost for free. Basically for free.
Yes, but so I guess, the call to action here is, if you would like us to do season 1 and put a pause on season 11, then go and vote on the poll of the Patreon. And if you'd rather we not, then hey, we will listen to that too. We wanted to leave it up to you guys in our listenership. But I hope the fun and informativeness we had on this episode really shows you guys what we could do if we fully redid season 1.
And either way, we will eventually get to season 11. So we're not starting over again. We just want to take a little break and talk about the 30 years of The Simpsons, starting with season 1. So yes, thanks for listening to our little spiel there. But as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast is Retronauts, a classic gaming podcast. Every Monday and occasionally on Friday, please go to retronauts.com or look for Retronauts in your podcast machine. Henry, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. I'm sure to tweet out things whenever they go live on the free feed or the Patreon, and that includes that new poll I was talking about. And don't forget to follow at Talk Simpsons Pod on Twitter. That's the official Twitter feed that we just renewed. It's going great. You'll learn about things like the amazing poster for the season 1 live show we're doing in January as part of SF Sketchfest with guest Jordan Morris. The poster that Nina Matsumoto did for us in the season 1 style is so good. Just sign up at Talk Simpsons Pod just to see that right now. And don't forget to vote in that poll.
So thanks so much for listening, folks. We'll see you next week for They Saved Lisa's Brain, and we will see you then.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows like a light bulb. Bart of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names like Zola. Lisa. They never let poor Rudolph Join in a reindeer game.
Like strip poker.
I'm warning you
One
two.
foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say,
Take it, Homer.
Hey, Rudolph, get your nose over here so you can guide my sleigh today.
Oh, Homer.
Then
and all the reindeer loved him, and they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history like a tale of the
Little.
And then I want some Robotoids, and then I want a Goop Monster, and then I want a great big
son,
giant...
you don't need all that junk. I'm sure you've already got something much more important. A decent home and a loving father who would do anything for you. Hey, I can afford lunch. Give me a bite of that donut.